Tatalakayin natin sa videong ito ang mga paraan ng paggamit ng CVIF Dynamic Learning Program o DLP sa tatlong konteksto. Una, kung ang mga guro at mag-aaral ay may device at internet. Ikalawa, kung mayroon silang device ngunit limited lang ang internet. At ikatlo ay kung walang access sa device at internet. Kung may device at internet connection ang guro at ang estudyante. Step 1. Ipapadala ni teacher ang learning activity sheet kada linggo sa mag-aaral gamit ang email o Facebook Messenger o iba pang online platform gaya ng Google Classroom o Microsoft Teams. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sheet sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Kukunan ng litrato ng mag-aaral ang natapos na learning activity sheet at ipapadala ito pabalik kay teacher gamit ang email o Facebook Messenger o iba pang online platform gaya ng Google Classroom o Microsoft Teams. Ang hard copies ng learning activity sheets na natapos ay dapat i-compile ng mag-aaral sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Kapag natanggap na ni teacher ang natapos na learning activity sheet, maaari na siyang mag-online discussion sa mga mag-aaral gamit ang Facebook o Zoom o iba pang online platforms upang i-process ang lesson na natutunan ng mga mag-aaral ng mag-isa. Kung may device pero limited ang internet connection ng mga guro at ng mga estudyante, ang ibig sabihin ng limited internet connection ay gumagamit ng mobile data kaya't di maaari ang full online classes. Step 1. Itatype ng teacher ang learning activity para sa Facebook Messenger at ipapadala ito sa mag-aaral. Sa paraang ito ay hindi mababawasan ang load ng teacher at mag-aaral. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Itatype ng mag-aaral ang mga sagot sa exercises sa Facebook Messenger at ipapadala kay teacher. Ang hard copies ng learning activity sheets na natapos ay dapat i-compile ng mag-aaral sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Kapag natanggap na ni teacher ang sagot sa mga exercises para sa nakatakdang learning activity, maaari siyang mag-discuss sa mag-aaral gamit pa rin ang Facebook Messenger. Kung walang device at internet connection, Step 1. Ipiprint ng teacher ang mga learning activity sheets para sa isang linggo at ipapadala ang hard copy sa mag-aaral. Ito ay maaaring kunin ng mga magulang sa paaralan o di kaya sa tulong ng barangay ay ide-deliver ito sa kanilang bahay. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Iko-compile ng mag-aaral ang mga natapos na learning activity sheets sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Sa tulong ng mga magulang o ng barangay, ibabalik sa teacher kada linggo ang mga natapos na learning activity sheets ng mag-aaral at papalitan ito ng mga bagong learning activity sheets para sa susunod na linggo. Kahit walang teacher intervention, may matututunan ang mag-aaral basta't ginagawa niya ang mga learning activities na nakatakda. Ang CVIF Dynamic Learning Program o DLP ay maaaring gamiting pamamaraan ng pagtuturo kung may device at internet, kung may device pero limited ang internet, at kahit walang device o internet. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon sa CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, bisitahin lamang ang dlp.ph na website o hanapin lang ang Dynamic Learning Program sa Facebook o magpadala ng email sa learnsmart@smart.com.ph.
The CVIF Dynamic Learning Program is a proven effective teaching strategy specifically designed to work around the socio-economic challenges of the country, such as large classes, lack of qualified teachers, budget limitations, as well as disasters and emergency situations. A Learn Smart program of wireless services provider Smart Communications Inc. and supported by PLDT Smart Foundation for over a decade, CVIF-DLP was endorsed by the Department of Education this 2020 as a flexible learning option in the new normal. Developed by Ramon Magsaysay awardees and world-renowned theoretical physicists Dr. Christopher C. Bernido and Dr. Maria Victoria Carpio Bernido of the Central Visayan Institute Foundation in Hagna, Bohol. CVIF-DLP requires minimal teacher intervention as it trains students to be independent learners.
We've been asked about the future of education. It has to be somewhere in between the purely online and the traditional way of teaching. There's a sweet spot in between. That's exactly where the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program is located.
CVIF-DLP's main instructional tools are the well-designed Learning Activity Sheets or LAS. They present bite-sized lessons with practice activities that slowly progress. The concept notes and exercises are all handwritten by the students. These learning activity sheets are then compiled to make up the students' portfolio.
It's very important to focus on the learning activity sheets, the preparation, the dissemination, and the accomplishment of the learning activity sheets by the students. This forms the core of the learning process, and the students will be learning basically independently when they do the LAS.
Since its implementation in 2002, CVIF-DLP schools have noted improvements in students' academic performance and study habits, producing quality graduates along the years. This year, more schools are experiencing the benefits of this teaching strategy from the teachers, students, parents, and communities.
To those who have started to implement the CVIF-DLP, welcome to the CVIF-DLP family. Our goal is not just to be happy as administrators, not just to be happy as teachers, but to make sure that our learners achieve high learner outcomes with no learner left behind.
I maintain that for the foreseeable future, the CVIF-DLP is the way to go for the 21st century.
Good afternoon to our participants and guests. Welcome to our CVIF Dynamic Learning Program event for the onboarding of our teachers to a crisis-resilient pedagogy. We will begin the program shortly. The assembly will officially start in a few minutes.
PLDT and smart communities is the company's corporate shared value program that delivers positive impact to the communities we serve, bridging the digital divide so Filipinos can live a fuller life through technology. With Malasakit as our strength, we strive to foster collaboration and unity across diverse communities, enabling meaningful connections to ensure that no one is left behind. It is this profound sense of malasakit that propels us to go the extra mile to ensure the safety and connectivity of our fellow citizens amidst disasters and emergencies.
Love is a word that you don't often use in a corporate setting. But each time you give a ligtas kit to those communities, you give the gift of love. And you help save those lives, you help those people. When you go to sleep at night, you can just rest assured that those people are leading more secure, safer lives because of you.
We help create a safe and smart Philippines by equipping communities with vital disaster preparedness skills, communications aid to bridge connections among families, and much-needed relief to those in need. In the face of widening gaps in education, Malasakit moves us to leverage our technology and innovations to narrow the educational divide. We equip learners, even in underserved communities, with access to transformative digital resources, inclusive educational content, and technopreneurship to help foster a landscape where no learner is left behind.
The CVIF kits served its purpose in improving the teaching and learning processes in those schools who have benefited from the CVIF kits.
When marginalized communities struggle to make ends meet, Malasakit compels us to harness the power of technology to help bolster their livelihood opportunities. We usher communities into the digital knowledge and economy by upskilling them on digital entrepreneurship and e-commerce, thereby expanding their economic horizon.
Back then, we are just thinking about planting seeds of knowledge on digital agriculture. Little did we know that DFP will become a tree of possibilities in the advancement of the entire agriculture and fisheries sector. Perhaps this is a very good testament of a partnership between private and public sector.
In the face of increasing cyber threats amid an always-on and always-connected society, Malasakit drives us to create safe spaces online, nurturing growth and protecting the vulnerable. We advocate for internet safety, mental well-being, and online child protection through policy, technology, awareness, and community engagements to ensure that Filipinos, especially the youth, have a safe and secure digital experience.
Our work is not yet over. We need to approach this problem with all actors working together to ensure a safe digital environment where all children enjoy the full benefits of the digital economy, free from harm and from danger.
Our ethos of inclusion compels us to address the diverse needs of all segments of society. Malasakit urges us to use technology in empowering indigenous cultural communities, women, people with disabilities, the elderly, and religious minorities through strategic partnerships and deploying tailored digital initiatives which foster holistic well-being and societal integration.
Joint technology-based inclusion program for our indigenous peoples cannot be overstated. These programs are instrumental in leveling the playing field and fostering a more inclusive society. Together, we can create a future where every individual has equal access to success and prosperity.
At the heart of PLDT and SMART lies a commitment to inspire innovation and cultivate meaningful connections that transcend generations. We remain steadfast in our pursuit of building a better and smarter world where every Filipino can thrive and contribute towards a brighter and purpose-filled tomorrow for all.
Good afternoon po sa ating mga partners and guests and colleagues, and to all of you who are joining us on our live stream. May we request everyone to observe a few minutes of silence for our prayer.
God, the creator of the heavens and the universe. You are worthy of our praises. In you alone, we pray and submit ourselves, for we are nothing without you. We humbly ask for your forgiveness and mercy. Dear Lord, we gather here today with the intent of doing good in thy name. Guide us to the right path. May our efforts be blessed with insight, understanding, wisdom, and respect for all. May our deep faith in you give us strength to act honestly and well in all matters before us. Amen.
Lahat po ito, no, dinadalangin namin. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Good day, everyone. I'm David Rioferio, and I'll be your host for today. I've always believed that education has the greatest potential to change someone's life, and I know you all agree with me when I say that learning is a gift that keeps on giving. Pero bago po tayo magtrabaho, no, and to get down to business, allow me to extend a warm welcome to our partners and special guests who are joining us on Zoom and those who are tuning in via our social media pages. Dito po sa DepEd Philippines at sa Smart Communities. We're grateful today to be joined by our hardworking teachers and DepEd officials from various regions in the country. Kanina po, we had a session for our elementary teachers. This time, para naman po sa ating mga junior and senior high schools. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. On behalf of the CVIF-DLP team, thank you for joining the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program Onboarding of Teachers to a Crisis-Resilient Teaching Pedagogy. The past few weeks, kita po natin kung paano gumalaw ang kalikasan sa pamamagitan nitong ating bagyong si Kristine, Tropical Storm Kristine. Talagang malakas ang ginagawa nilang mga changes sa buhay natin, lalo sa pag-aaral ng mga bata. But amidst this adversity, we've witnessed the resilience of human spirit. We saw how communities came together to help each other. The recent challenges have pushed us to be innovative and resilient, just as severe Tropical Storm Kristine forced us to find new ways to connect. We must adapt and evolve our teaching approaches to keep our students engaged and learning. As we come together ngayon po, to ensure that there is no learner left behind, let's get to know a teaching strategy called CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, or CVIF-DLP, that has already been proven to be crisis and even pandemic resilient. Mamaya po, we will hear from our longtime DLP ambassadors on what it is like to implement CVIF-DLP in their schools. They will also share us lessons learned from their own experience with CVIF-DLP that can help you in your own implementation of this teaching strategy. Kumbaga, plug and play itong gagawin natin na pag-aaral ng CVIF-DLP para maigamit na natin agad sa mga eskwelahan natin. We will also get to know more about one of its important components called LAS. Everybody say LAS, or Learning Activity Sheets, which help to simplify complex topics para po madaling maintindihan ng mga bata natin na tinuturuan. Without further ado, let's get the ball rolling to formally welcome us. May we call on Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma. He heads the field operations of the Department of Education.
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon po sa lahat ng ating pong mga participants for today's activity that will focus on our orientation on the use of our DLP, particularly yung ating pong learner activity sheets sa lahat po ng mga regions that were affected by the recent Typhoon Kristine. But before we proceed to that activity, we would like to thank our longtime partner in education, Smart PLDT, and of course our partners, our ambassadors from the implementing schools of the Dynamic Learning Program, particularly Dr. Chris Bernido, who started the Dynamic Learning Program. So this orientation will give us more information on how we can adapt the learn activity sheets that will be used by our schools, either uh, in terms of the makeup classes that they will be conducting, so that we will be able to compensate yung ating pong mga lost class hours, no, because of the suspension of classes due to the typhoon. Pangalawa, we also would like to see how we can use, no, the dynamic learning program, learn activity sheets, kung ang ating pong mga mag-aaral ay hindi pa po makakabalik sa kani-kanilang mga paaralan. So, malalaman natin kung paano ang mga schools na ito ay na gumamit ng DLP ay nagamit itong activity sheets na ito habang ang mga bata ay nasa kani-kanilang mga tahanan. Pangatlo, we would like to also explore the possibility of using the dynamic learning program learn activity sheets in terms of creating a more creative space inside our classrooms, a way of innovating the way we deliver instruction. So ito pong mga paraan na ito ay tinitingnan natin upang sa ganon ay makahanap tayo, no, ng mga solusyon upang matugunan natin yung possible learning loss again, no, after the COVID, no. And now we are experiencing a lot of class suspensions because of the typhoons, no. In fact, after Kristine, we are again bracing ourselves for another typhoon, no? At seemingly, ito na po yung ating mga aasahan sa mga darating na panahon. Kaya maganda na tayo po ay matuto mula po sa ating mga partners, no? At maibahagi nila sa atin kung paano nila nagamit ito sa iba't ibang pamamaraan. So again, would like to welcome our participants. We'd like to thank our regional directors of Regions 1, 2, 3, the Cordillera Autonomous Region, Calabarzon, and Region 5, Bicol. So for giving us the opportunity to be able to share this with you, our dear teachers, our dear members of the DepEd family in the affected regions of Typhoon Kristine, to share with you the information on how we can help our schools recover from a possible learning loss due to the class suspensions. So we'd like to thank also, of course, our secretary, our good secretary, Sec Sani Angara, for really pushing, no, for the implementation of the DLP and really supporting us and the schools na tayo po ay makatugon dito sa sunod-sunod na mga pangyayari. Hindi lamang sa pamamagitan ng alternative delivery mode, but of course, the support that we are getting from the leadership and the administration of Seksani na tugunan yung mga napinsala ng mga classrooms, no, at yung mapalitan yung mga kagamitan sa paaralan na nasalanta o nasira dahil sa bagyo at pagbaha. So muli, we'd like to welcome and thank you despite of the busy times and of course the situation that you are in right now in the most affected areas. You have time to join us and learn. So maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikisa, at ito po ay bagamat kalahating araw lang po ito natin gagawin, at pilitin po natin na sa loob ng kalahating araw ay marami po tayong malaman at matutunan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma. At this point, we would like you all to meet one of the founders of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Ladies and gentlemen, theoretical physicist and Ramon Magsaysay Awardee for Education, Dr. Christopher C. Bernido. Sir Chris?
Para po sa mga kasamahan ko sa edukasyon, magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ang Pilipinas po ay nadadaanan ng mga 18 to 20 typhoons bawat taon at ang Pilipinas ay nasa tinatawag na Pacific Ring of Fire. Marami pong earthquakes, kaya marami pong nararamdaman natin at na-experience na mga suspension of classes, learning loss every year. Kaya dapat matugunan po ito at mabigyan ng solusyon. At sa tingin ko po ay meron kaming maidudulot na solusyon para dito sa continuous suspension of classes every year na tinatawag na CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Ang CVIF po ay nagkakahulugang Central Visayan Institute Foundation kung saan nanggaling itong programa na ito. 22 years na po itong CVIF Dynamic Learning Program or DLP at more than 1,000 schools in the Philippines have implemented the DLP in the elementary, high school at saka college level. Bakit po ito maganda para sa mga kapag may mga typhoons, baha o earthquake? Subok na po itong CVIF-DLP kagaya nung nakaraang Zamboanga siege, nung nagkaroon ng giyera sa Zamboanga ng 2 linggo. Yung mga DLP implementing schools po ay tuloy-tuloy ang kanilang pag-aaral kahit na close down o walang pasok po. Ganun na rin po ang mga typhoons o baha na dumaan sa Mindanao. Nababaha yung mga bahay ng mga teachers pero tuloy-tuloy ang pag-aaral ng mga bata. Dahil po ang pinaka-buod ng DLP ay independent learning. Minimal po ang teacher intervention at ang programa ay naka-address from the challenged learners all the way to the bright learners. Ang heart and soul po ng DLP ay yung tinatawag na Learning Activity Sheets or LAS na tinatawag natin. Ito po ay isang pahina lang, 1 page, 1 concept, isang konsepto, isang pahina, bite size, at there are several LAS step by step to reach a learning competency na gusto ng DepEd. So, ang importante lang po sa LAS na pag nakaabot ito sa mga kabataan kahit nasa bahay sila ay kanilang kokopyahin. This has to be copied by hand, handwritten in their own by hand to ensure that there is deep learning going on when going through the LAS. At itong mga LAS na to, hinahatid at binabalik normally once a week kahit walang pasok. Gaya ng naalala ko, ang Davao Christian High School na nag-implement ng DLP since 2005. Nung nagkaroon ng pandemic, nung 2020, nag-text sa akin po yung head ng Davao Christian High School. Sabi nila, maraming salamat po at dahil sa DLP, we had a smooth transition to the pandemic and the lockdown. So, subok na po itong DLP at i-explain during the orientation, may mag-explain po sa inyo step by step kung paano ipapaabot yung LAS sa mga kabataan. Importante lang po na dapat kopyahin ito ng mga bata at itong accomplished LAS ibabalik sa mga teachers. Ang role po ng mga teachers this time, hindi na po yung pagle-lecture, kundi sa assessment na po ng LAS. So, ako po yung nagagalak at nakadalo kayo sa orientation na to na ginawa ng Smart Communications. Maraming salamat po sa Smart Communications. Good luck po. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Chris. He, together with his wife, the late Dr. Maria Victoria Carpio Bernido, who was also a theoretical physicist and a Ramon Magsaysay Awardee for Education, co-founded the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Sa ngayon po, we would also like to invite one of the longtime partners of CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Their history of support to this teaching strategy dates back to 2010, when they started to help in the capacity building of teachers and schools who are interested to also adopt the said program. Through the partnership with PLDT and Smart Communications Inc., CVIF-DLP has broadened its reach to Indigenous peoples education, Arabic language and Islamic values education, alternative learning system, and even in special needs education. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Stephanie Orlino, AVP and Head of Stakeholder Management Team of PLDT and Smart.
Thank you, David. Magandang hapon po sa lahat ng nakikinig ngayon sa DepEd Philippines Facebook page at YouTube channel at sa aming mga followers sa PLDT and Smart Communities Facebook. On behalf of PLDT and Smart, I would like to thank the Department of Education for supporting the expansion of the Central Visayan Institute Foundation's Dynamic Learning Program, na isang innovative and disaster-resilient strategy of teaching that improves learners' outcomes despite the many challenges and disruptions faced by our schools. Since 2010, we at PLDT and Smart have been supporting DLP. Mula pa nung magawaran nga si Dr. Christopher Bernido and the late Dr. Marivic Carpio Bernido ng Ramon Magsaysay Award in Education. This is because we truly believe and we have seen evidence of its transformative power in education. This pedagogy promotes independent student learning that is very vital in STEM. Isa itong low budget, it works in face-to-face, hybrid, or distance learning. It can work in online, radio-based, TV, at pati sa modular instructions. It is applicable to all levels. It caters to all learners and ensures that authentic teaching and learning continues despite disruptions, katulad nga itong dulot ng severe Tropical Storm Kristine. The impact of the recent storm has once again underscored the need for us to work together and to support our teachers and students and to find innovative approaches, sabi nga ni Asek Garma kanina, to stave off further learning losses. To date, there are more than 1,000 schools already implementing the Dynamic Learning Program, and we have trained over 16,000 teachers all over the country. We hope that the program will also bring much needed relief and support sa mga guro nating nandito ngayon who have been affected by the storm and to those belonging to other regions also tuning in today. Again, thank you sa Department of Education for the opportunity for us to provide assistance, and I affirm our long-time commitment to support the department in providing access to inclusive and quality education for all. Thank you as well to our DLP ambassadors for their time, their expertise, and passionate advocacy in propagating this good news. We at PLDT and Smart will be here to work with you every step of the way to help ensure that no learner is left behind. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Ms. Steph. At this point, before we head on to our discussions, we would like to initially invite our attendees on Zoom to kindly turn on your cameras as we document today's activity via a photo op. Ladies and gentlemen, our technical team will be capturing this moment, so kindly ensure that your cameras are on. As for our attendees who are tuned in, dun po sa FB and YouTube, please pwede kayo mag-groovy and then you send it to the comment section para malaman namin kung nasaan din po kayo.
All the beautiful smiles.
Yung sound na.
All good, thank you.
Thank you so much. At this point, let's all get to know what CVIF Dynamic Learning Program is. To help us understand how this teaching strategy helps develop independent learners, let's all welcome Desi Dario Magnaye, Campus Director of Davao Christian High School. Their school has been implementing DLP since 2005, a total of 19 years. Sir Desi.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sir David. Everyone who is here with us, maraming salamat po sa pagdalo. We hope that this is going to be meaningful and an educational and an informative afternoon to all of us. First, I would like to express my appreciation for this opportunity to share our story and to share about the CVIF-DLP framework. Today, we hope to have a better understanding of the program by discussing the 4 program components which make it up. So we'll also have an in-depth discussion of the Learning Activity Sheet, or the LAS, which is the main instructional tool of CVIF-DLP. This year brings a milestone for all of us, as this is our 20th year of implementing CVIF-DLP. Meeting the Bernidos and learning about the program is a blessing. When the school decided to implement it in 2005, many were surprised. While we didn't have challenges like the lack of qualified teachers or instructional resources, we already noticed the changes in how students learn. This was our main consideration why we wanted to implement CVIF-DLP in Davao Christian High School. We need to ensure that our students are still learning. So Davao Christian High School's mission is to provide a well-rounded Christian education to develop the students to become responsible and useful citizens imbued with high Christian ideals. So Davao Christian currently has 2 campuses and serves the needs of 3,100 plus students from preschool to senior high school. So our story of CVIF-DLP started as a leap of faith when we adopted it in 2005 with modifications. When we say we, this means the teachers, corporate decision, and our school administrators' support. In 2008, DCHS became part of the pilot implementation of Learning Physics as One Nation, or LPON. Our physics classes implemented all the program components, showing that our students could learn difficult physics concepts and principles on their own. 2012 was when we had to rethink our implementation and decided to heed the Bernidos' recommendation to include LAS writing in all subjects. Write-shops, just like this one, were also regularly conducted for teachers to be reminded of the non-negotiables. And the lockdown in 2020 abruptly shifted our classes online. Teachers and students had to adjust to a new learning modality while ensuring that effective teaching and learning continued. CVIF-DLP prepared us to trust that our students are capable of learning on their own, even if we are not with them 100% of the time. Currently, we implement a hybrid learning modality using the CVIF-DLP approach. Next slide, please. Considered as a package of solutions to boost learning, CVIF-DLP is a teaching pedagogy created by our very own Filipino theoretical physicists and educators, Drs. Christopher and Maria Victoria Carpio Bernido. It is a synthesis of classical and modern pedagogical theories adapted to foster the highest level of learning, creativity, and productivity. So as a teaching method, it is disaster resilient, just like what Sir Chris mentioned a while ago, because through CVIF-DLP, learning was able to continue even after natural calamities, such as the Typhoon Sendong in Cagayan de Oro in 2011 and Bohol earthquake in 2013. And during the pandemic, when students and teachers were not allowed to go to schools. It is also low budget, yet effective, because it is suitable for large classes. It requires less textbooks and science equipment. It reduces teaching personnel requirements. It is less dependent on the abilities and personalities of teachers, has built-in modes for teacher self-evaluation and professional advancement, and has built-in checks of dysfunctional behavior common in Filipinos. As Secretary Angara said, no student's education has to pause when challenges arise. And we hope CVIF-DLP can help in ensuring that learning continues even in less ideal situation. So we see that CVIF-DLP is a paradigm shift, and as a teaching pedagogy that promotes independent student learning, it is where teacher-centered activities only comprise 20 to 30% of the class time, while the remaining time is used for independent student activities. This is very different from the conventional approach, where majority of the time is allotted for lecture discussion, and we are uncertain if our students are engaged or even paying attention. So in our next slide, we see that in CVIF-DLP, the duty of the teacher is not just to teach, but enable students to learn. As teachers, we are not only concerned if we are able to deliver our lessons to our students, but more importantly, it is to determine if our teaching translates to learning. Furthermore, CVIF-DLP believes that our students are capable of learning independently. So the next few slides will briefly explain how each component addresses the learner's disposition as habit-forming protocols are developed. Yung una pong program component sa CVIF-DLP is tinatawag nating activity-based multi-domain learning. To think deeply about a lesson, a student must go through a thinking process without any distraction. Thus, enough time is needed to write and accomplish the learning activity sheet or LAS. What you see on the screen right now is an example of a learning activity sheet or an LAS. It is a well-prepared independent activity expressing the basic idea the student needs to learn. The LAS was be given prior to the lecture. Big sabihin po, binibigay ito bago pa mag-discuss ang isang teacher to allow students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills. We ask students to write LAS because majority of the learning is individualized here, and it is accomplished by letting students copy it by hand. This helps the teacher identify what part of the lesson the students find easy or difficult, allowing him or her to tailor fit the discussion. Review of answers is also facilitated. We will be talking more about the LAS later. So if you have questions or clarifications, I hope that these will be addressed during the second part of my talk. For now, I want to show you some samples of learning activity sheets from different subjects. For example, in the previous slide, what you see is actually an LAS prepared. What you see on the left is an LAS prepared by the teacher, while the one on the right is the actual LAS accomplished by the student. So what you see now is a learning activity in Araling Panlipunan. It is about the different religions in Southeast Asia. Students have to copy everything and answer the questions that follow. Now, the next slide shows a math learning activity on the factoring the sum and difference of two cubes. This lesson is about the different factoring methods. If you're a math teacher, you know that this is composed of many different methods. But for this particular LAS, the focus is only about one method, factoring the sum and difference of two cubes. The steps on how to factor are provided and followed there and is an example. To check if students understand the lesson, they try to answer the 3 questions at the end of the learning activity sheets. They show their complete and step-by-step solution. This is done without any prior lecture. Hindi pa nagdi-discuss si math teacher nito. This will show what part of the lesson the students find difficult when the teacher checks the LAS. And again, when the teacher assesses the answers of the students, he or she will be able to customize his discussion and focus on the most important parts during his or her discussion. The next slide is a sample learning activity in English. So since students answer this without any lecture, it is important that they unlock the difficult words to understand the LAS better. Di ba po, pag nagdi-discuss tayo ng lesson, one of the things that we try to do at the beginning is to unlock difficult terms. However, in a learning activity sheet, dahil hindi pa tayo makakapag-discuss to allow students to answer independently, we provide the unlocking in the LAS. Now, this helps students build their vocabulary. So they are given an opportunity to discover the meaning of these words, or if a dictionary is not available, the teacher can actually put the meaning of these words in the LAS. And hopefully, by doing that, students are able to understand the learning activity sheets better. And lastly, the last sample we have is a Filipino learning activity. Different examples are provided, followed by a question they need to answer. So notice that even though they are from different subjects, they have somewhat a model or a template, and we will be discussing them later. You have probably noticed also that our learning activity sheets is also a one-pager activity. It's not long. It means that if it reaches the second page, it's already a long learning activity sheet, and the teacher needs to redesign it so that it will fit in one learning activity. Next slide, please. So right now, you may be wondering if students need to copy the learning activity sheet, how will they do that? There are several ways on how students copy the LAS by hand. An expert teacher or facilitator can write the contents of the LAS on the board, just like what you see on the left photo, and then students copy everything on their own. Now, if a projector is available, for example, just like what you see in the other photo, then the teacher can project the contents of the LAS on the screen, and then students are given enough time to copy it. So there are actually many different ways on how we can let our students copy the learning activity sheets, and these are just two possible ways. Next slide. Now, probably you have noticed that I have been repeating since the beginning that our students are required to write learning activity sheets by hand. In the message of Sir Chris, he also emphasized that writing is very important. It is important, or it is integral, because it forces the student to slow down and to process the lesson. Research has also shown that the student is able to retain more information if it is copied by hand. Another reason why writing is a non-negotiable is because it promotes discipline and stamina to students, especially that they have to accomplish many LAS in different subjects. What you see on the screen right now is the second program component, and we'll call it the comprehensive student portfolio. Because they do a lot of learning activity sheets, this includes small projects, quizzes, exams. These must be compiled in a portfolio. So a portfolio is basically a folder, and it is color-coded per subject. So for example, in Davao Christian, a blue folder means it's for math, green is for science, and so on. It fosters an organized mind as if they do cumulative scholarship, which is typical of scientists' work. A portfolio is also considered a proof of students' learning because it can monitor actual achievement. It can also be used to review and master past lessons because they are arranged in an organized manner. It also develops a student's accountability and sense of ownership because he or she is responsible for it. In the next slide, you will see sample portfolios from CVIF, and they are stored in a shelf inside the classroom. Students also make a table of contents to make the filing of their LAS more organized. The third program component in CVIF-DLP is called Strategic Study and Rest. In this component, the schedule of classes is strategic because all schoolwork is done in school. Students maximize the time they have in school so that they can rest and get the right amount of sleep, which is crucial for their brains to develop fully. So no homework or assignment is given to reduce the children's reliance on parents and tutors. This prevents family members from stressing over homework, which can foster healthier and stronger connections among them. In a research study, we not only need sleep after learning to consolidate what we have memorized, but we also need it before learning so that we can recharge and soak up new information the next day. So sleep is very crucial, and in order for students to get this, we do not assign any homework, and during weekends, we don't let students come to school unless it is very, very important. Our last program component is the parallel class scheme. And in this component, it is where teachers teach students simultaneously. I'll try to explain this using the image you can see on the screen. If you notice, there is an expert teacher, let's say a science teacher, and this science teacher can teach 2 to 3 classes per subject at the same time. And this automatically lessens a teacher's class contact time. The other classes are now managed by facilitators who are teachers teaching another subject. So a facilitator is also a teacher that is teaching another subject, and the role of the facilitator is to supervise the class and to ensure that students are doing the activities prepared by the expert teacher. Now, this is considered very important in DLP as it develops a mindset for independent learning. Students can explore on their own and foster strong in-school collaboration since the expert teacher does not dominate in the classroom. This also shifts the role of teachers by allocating more time to prepare the LAS, diagnose and evaluate students' response, and implement timely interventions and recognize learning difficulties. Overall, can we skip to the next slide po? Overall, the 4 program components, which are the activity-based multi-domain learning, the student portfolio, the strategic study and rest, and the parallel class scheme are considered the key pillars of the program to ensure that it is implemented effectively. Moreover, these components, which are considered non-negotiables, are able to address the following: learner disposition through the habits acquired by the student while learning in this kind of setup. Dahil po meron tayong mga built-in habits that students are able to develop, mas nagiging better po yung kanilang disposition towards learning. Pangalawa, it addresses large classes. I know that in the Philippines, this is a problem because it's challenging to be in a classroom with more than 50 students. Because of this, we're able to solve this because activities through the learning activity sheets, they are individualized. So even if we have a lot of students, we know how our students answer, we know how our students think based on what they accomplished in the learning activity sheets. And lastly, the lack of qualified teachers. Next slide, please. Our journey consisted of a lot of unlearning, learning, and relearning. Sir Chris and Mama Marivic had consistently emphasized the need to focus on the essentials in learning, yung pinaka-importante. And as a sound teaching pedagogy, CVIF-DLP showed us an unconventional way of teaching and learning. To move fast, we have to slow down. To learn more, we have to teach less. More than the content, values are concretized among teachers and students. Self-discipline, competence, honesty, integrity are learned. In a survey we conducted to our students, one of the factors where our students were able to manage satisfactorily is because of the habits they formed through CVIF-DLP. Getting used to independent learning contributed to an increase in their confidence and growth mindset, traits necessary to develop lifelong learning. The students also have a positive perception of their ability to learn independently. Our success indicators show that CVIF-DLP has improved the performance of our students in different standardized tests. For example, our students' general scholastic aptitude in NCAE, including their math and science scores, show that more than 70% belong to the 98 to the 99 plus percentile rank, which means that they belong to the top 2% of everyone who took the exam in the entire country. Similarly, their CEM diagnostic test scores in English, math, and science show that more than half have obtained a rating of excellence or approaching excellence. The number of students passing university entrance exams have also increased through the years. Next slide, please. So the second part of our discussion now will focus on the learning activity sheet, as it is the key ingredient for enhanced learning. Take note that because of the many challenges that we have here, we can take advantage of the learning activity sheets to maximize learning. So the LAS is the main instructional tool in CVIF-DLP, which is carefully prepared by the teacher. Now, this is similar to a lesson plan, but the main audience of the LAS is the student. So when we design an LAS, it is actually what the students will copy in the classroom, because it is to be copied by hand and it is to be given to them one activity at a time. The main reason for this is because learning in small chunks enhances absorption and retention. If you copy, you're both reading and writing. That's visual plus psychomotor, which results to better retention of the lesson. In situations when there are no textbooks or internet connectivity is limited or none, the LAS becomes a great substitute for a learning material. The LAS must also be self-explanatory, as it is to be accomplished without any prior lecture or teacher intervention. This helps develop the critical thinking and independent learning skills of our students. Next slide, please. Most LAS have three distinct parts. So kanina po, pinakita namin sa inyo yung iba't ibang klase ng mga learning activity sheets. At kung mapapansin po natin, meron po siyang three parts. Ito po yung concept digest, example or illustration, at questions, problems, and exercises. The concept digest covers the most important idea about the topic. It is usually followed by an example or an illustration which aims to help students understand the concept better. In order to check for understanding or to see if our students already know the lesson, they answer a few exercise questions on their own, and this is found at the last part of the learning activity sheets. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, how does an LAS look like? Even if I showed you some samples already at the beginning, an LAS can actually mean different types of learning materials. Now, on this slide, what you see is a concept notes. So when we say a concept notes, it is a learning activity sheet that presents the main lesson or the idea to be learned by the student. So the one on the left is a concept notes about a grade 7 math lesson about sets. Now, aside from so this means that in a conventional teaching method, the teacher will just explain this orally in class, for example. But since we use a learning activity sheet, we allow students to discover the lesson on their own through the learning activity sheet, and they will write this by hand, including the illustration. Now, what you see on the right is another type of learning activity sheet, and this is for science when we have laboratory activities. Since the main challenge is the lack of equipment, for example, we choose learning activities as laboratory activities by making use of materials that can be easily found in our community. So the students copy the materials, the procedure, as well as what questions to answer. And this is also another kind of learning activity sheet. In the next slide, you will see two examples of learning activity sheets that are skills and drills or exercise sets or problem sets. So here you have a learning activity with 4 boxes, and the goal is for the student to draw and explain something about the lesson. So you notice, I hope by now, that they can come in different forms and size, so to speak. The one on the right is like a formative activity that we usually give to our students. Again, we make sure that we don't give a lot of items so that it will fit one page. Now, aside from that, we can also have drawing and art. So just like what you can see in the next slide. So I think in this learning activity, this is for Araling Panlipunan. You notice that it's almost blank because the students are expected to draw something about the topic. And another math activity is about angles, the different kinds of angles. And here students are expected to draw these types of angles to be able to visualize or imagine how these angles differ in terms of their angle measure. So these are just some of the sample learning activity sheets that we can have in high school. Next slide, please. Since all learning activity sheets are to be accomplished without prior lecture, teachers need to ensure that students can accomplish them on their own. Yun po yung goal natin. Pag merong isang learning activity ang bata, gusto po natin na nagagawa nila ito independently on their own. Tulad po nung pandemic na hindi tayo pwedeng makipag-meet sa kanila, ang ginawa po namin as nagbigay kami ng learning activity para tuloy yung pag-aaral ng bata habang nasa bahay sila. Now, in order to do this properly, activities must be divided carefully so that students are able to reach the required competency. So using the analogy in the photo, we must avoid this high step, meaning a learning activity sheet should not be very, very complex and impossible to finish independently. Because what we want to have is this. We want to achieve something like this. We divide a complex task into small steps so that students are able to reach the required competency even in less ideal situations. If a learning activity sheet is done properly or if it is well designed, very little teacher intervention is needed and students can continue learning even if they are not in the classroom. Now, the next slide will show to us some guidelines that we can take note when we're making or designing our own learning activity sheet. So here, we always remind teachers that when we make our own learning activity sheet, that one LAS is only for one major concept. So if you want to discuss many concepts, then you have to divide that in different learning activity sheets. You have probably noticed that that the learning activity sheet fits one page. So it should not exceed one page. And these are just some of the formatting requirements that we follow. We use legal size paper, font size of 14 and spacing of 1.5 or double space when we write our learning activity sheet. And questions and exercises should address the learning targets and progress from easy to medium to difficult. Our experience in CVIF-DLP shows that we only need about 15 to 30% discussion time. Many concepts and principles, even the difficult ones in math, physics, and chemistry, can be learned independently. And this is made possible by learning activity sheets, which allows students to learn on their own. Now, I'm on the last part of my discussion already, and this is just sharing to you on how we can take advantage of the LAS in different situations. May it be the pandemic, may it be when we're not allowed to go to school because the classrooms are still not ready in disasters or calamities, for example. So usually what we do at the beginning is we would start by the teacher preparing the learning activity sheet to be given to each student. So it is the task of the teacher to design the learning activity sheet that the students need to answer on their own. Now, in the next slide, we will distribute this to students in different ways. If there is access to internet or if our students have a device, then the teacher can email the LAS or send it in Messenger group chat or even put it in a learning management system like Google Classroom. That's how we do it. But if connectivity is limited, then we can set it up in a way where parents pick up LAS from designated pickup centers. This was done by some schools during the pandemic where students get the learning materials in certain pickup centers, and when they reach home, the students start writing and answering them. Now, the next slide shows that students will now copy the learning activity sheet. So they'll have to copy this because, again, there is very good reason on why this is important. And I mentioned it many times already. And they copy it in a learning activity sheet that is blank. So in the next slide shows to us a template. This is what we give our students where they will copy the learning activity sheet. So in the next slide, you will see there a CVIF blank template. This is where the student will write the learning activity sheet. Now, after the student is done writing, in the next slide, they will compile it in a portfolio, just like what I mentioned a while ago. And the portfolio is simply a folder. Now, after they're done writing, that's when teacher intervention happens because the LAS is prior to the lecture. So there are many different ways on how the teacher can intervene. In the next slide, we can see that it can be via online, through TV, radio, or even Facebook Messenger. But again, in certain situations when it is not possible, just by making use of a well-designed learning activity sheet, our students are actually learning already. So, ito po yung pinaka advantage ng learning activity sheets kasi kung hindi talaga makapag-discuss si teacher because of some reason, then learning still continues, and this is through the use of the learning activity sheet. Now, after that, because the teacher needs to assess or check, this will be collected. So again, if there is access to the internet or a device, the student can email back or send a photo of the learning activity sheet. So as a teacher, nakikita ako kung ginawa mismo ng bata yung learning activity. Now, if this is not possible, the parents will now again return the accomplished learning activity sheet in the pickup center so that teachers can check it in school. And lastly, the teacher checks the CVIF-DLP LAS submitted by students, whether it is online or printed. Now, this is very important because as a teacher, our role is now shifted. So we try to diagnose saan ba yung common mistakes ng mga bata natin sa pagsagot ng learning activity sheet. Ano ba yung mga misconceptions nila? Nagagawa natin to dahil lahat sila merong sagot. And because this is data, this can help us tailor fit our discussion. And pag nagdi-discuss na tayo, mas natutumbok natin yung pinaka-importante because we know how our students answer the learning activity sheet. In my last slide, our desire for our students to become independent learners made us believe in CVIF-DLP, even if it meant resistance from different stakeholders at the onset. Maalala ko na sa simula, meron talagang parents, students, or even teachers na hindi kumbinsido sa program for valid reasons. But we believe that the habits that they have formed and the mindset that they are capable of learning independently will greatly help them in the future. The recent events in education forced us to change the way we view teaching and learning. Our hope is that more schools will see CVIF-DLP as a viable alternative. The benefits and fulfillment we are getting, and we will be getting far outweigh the hardships and challenges we took, we are taking, and we will be taking, all because of our mission to develop learners imbued with high Christian ideals. Maraming salamat po sa pakikinig, and I'll see you later for our Q&A.
So Jesse, maraming salamat po ulit for this very insightful discussion. At this point, we would also like to get insights from our attendees. Kayo pong nandiyan sa Facebook, YouTube, and dito po sa ating Zoom. Para po sa mga attendees ng Zoom, pwede kayong mag-chat and then you place your comments para po mabasa namin and we answer the questions. So Desi, pwedeng ako muna magtanong ha? Ayun. Sige, kasi doon muna tayo nung nag-umpisa ka. Bale, nung nag-start ang Davao Christian High School, anong mga materials na yung ready o nag-start ba kayo from scratch?
Because we started, Sir Dave, in 2005, there were no available learning activity sheets. Wala ngang mga ganitong orientation, so we did not know how to write our own learning activity sheets. Naalala ko dati,
Okay.
Sir Dave, yung unang kong learning activity sheet was 3 to 5 pages long. Hindi pala dapat ganon.
Okay,
So,
okay.
dahil nung time na yon, konti pa lang po kaming nag-implement. That's why I'm very thankful that we have this kind of write shop and orientation now, because it becomes easier and you now have a better support system for schools that want to implement the learning, the CVIF dynamic learning program. Dati kasi po, we have to ask sila Dr. Chris and and Dr. Marivic Bernido
Uh-huh.
if what we're doing is right or wrong.
Okay, sige kasi mabuti ngayon kahit paano plug and play na kasi nga
Yes
through
po.
your help and of course DepEd Sarangani and CVIF and the Department of Education, meron na tayong naipon ng mga learning activity sheets. Ika nga plug and play na. Sabi mo kanina, Sir Desi, yung learning activity sheets, siya yung kumbaga parang heart and soul ng dynamic learning program. Pwede bang i-reiterate mo bakit importante na maintindihan nating maigi yung paggamit ng learning activity sheets bukod sa pag-intindihan, yung matanggap natin na it's really one page, is this like this? Paki-explain nga po further.
Siguro mas na-appreciate ko yung learning activity sheet nung nag-pandemic kasi mahirap ma-imagine na magtuturo ka na hindi mo kasama ang bata sa classroom. In my many years of teaching, I did not experience that. My experience is always being with my students in the classroom. But during the pandemic, we were not allowed to do that. So I had no choice but to trust that my students can answer the learning activity sheets on their own. At nung sinasubmit nila ito sa akin, Sir Dave, doon ako lalong naniwala na kaya ng mga students natin na sumagot ng learning activity sheets on their own. As long as it is well designed and it is carefully planned. So, dahil dito, mas nagkakaroon ng retention dahil nga sinusulat pa ng mga bata yung learning activity sheets. Kailangan po nila itong isulat by hand for better retention. At dahil po ginagawa nila ito, nagsuslow down po sila, taking time to process the information given to them. And they try to answer it based on their understanding. Because of that po kasi may nangyayari na sa mga brains ng mga bata. The
Kahit
brain
nagsusulat sila pa lang,
dynamic.
nagbabasa.
Opo. I think yun yung kahit kaya siguro siya tinawag na dynamic learning kasi kahit na tahimik ang isang classroom dahil lahat ng bata nagsusulat, gumagana yung utak nila kasi maraming nangyayari doon sa pagsusulat nila, sa pagtatry nilang sumagot sa mga tanong. And that's why the learning activity sheet is very important. And I'm very thankful that we now have a lot of available learning activity sheets that we can use to make implementation of DLP better.
Opo, ito merong papasok na good news ha. Hayaan ko na si Director Michael na mag-announce ng Sir Director. Baka pwede mo kaming samahan kasi may marami nagtatanong tungkol sa LAS templates, tapos saan pwede magkaroon na maka-access nito.
Ayan, magandang hapon po. O sa mga nagtatanong kung meron na po bang mga LAS or kung gagawa pa po. Para po dito sa ating implementation po, meron na po talaga po tayo mga nakaset na LAS po. Magpapasalamat po tayo sa CVIF, Central Visayan Institute Foundation, para sa pag-provide ng LAS para sa grade 7 to 12 at para po at sa SDO Sarangani po ng DepEd dahil sila po ay nakagawa na po ng ating mga LAS para sa kinder hanggang grade 12. So meron na po, ready na po yan, ina-download na lang po. I-provide po namin yung link para sa LAS pagkatapos po ng ating session.
Yun. Salamat po, Director. Again, napakaswerte ng grupo na ito kasi meron na po tayong mga learning activity sheets. Handa na po, plug and play para po maitungo na natin doon sa ating mga estudyante na affected by itong disasters natin para magkaroon na po ng makeup classes at makatulong po sa ating recovery. Sir Desi, nabanggit mo kanina, nung una, 3 and 5. So again, one page lang po and essentials po. Pag sinabing essentials, Sir Desi, nagbigay ka ng mga example kanina per subject. Paano ko to makikita as a teacher? Ilalagay ko ba dapat yung sarili ko doon sa aking estudyante? Parang ganun po ba binuo itong mga LAS?
Yung nagsisimula po ako gumawa ng aking learning activity sheet, what I would usually do is I will visualize paano ko to sasabihin sa mga bata in a way na maintindihan nila.
Okay.
Of course, when I do my discussion, I will not read from a book, for example. I'll try to summarize it in a way that my students would understand. So when designing your learning activity sheets, para kang nagsasalita or it's like you are communicating to your students even
So
if
ganito
you
yung
are not
matatanggap
with
nila
them.
na LAS.
Yes
Ganito
po.
yung pagkaka-design.
Yes po. So using the template, using the guidelines, you have a constraint to just include the essentials. Yun
Opo.
pong concept digest, yung examples, kasi limited ang space and to allow students to focus. At baka iniisip ng ibang teachers, paano naman yung ibang mga discussions? Kung meron pang ibang mga discussions, pwede po ito sa ibang LAS or you can do this during your actual discussion kasi pwede naman po magkaroon pa rin ng lecture discussion. Nababawasan lang po because we want it to be independent learning.
Sir Desi, karugtong, I think ito yan, no? May tanong, are we allowed to modify the LAS template o na meron kayo? Ano pong thoughts niyo doon, Sir Desi?
Yes, I think a teacher is allowed to modify because sometimes teachers, I know, try to contextualize it, make it localized para mas maging relevant sa kanilang mga students. I think this is something that we also do because the experiences of my students in Davao City might be different to the students somewhere. So, but I think what we need to always remember is yung para pong model or yung template na nandun po yung concept digest. After po noon, may mga examples or illustrations and then it will end with some exercise questions.
Okay, so i-reiterate lang po natin, yes, pwede pong i-tweak or i-customize itong mga learning activity sheets na matatanggap po ninyo. Para nga, ika nga ni Sir Desi, swak na swak o match na match doon sa mga pangangailangan ng mga estudyante natin sa ating eskwelahan. Sir Desi, sabi mo kanina, it's mastery. Pinopromote niya yung mastery ng lessons. Tapos, yun nga parang paghakbang sa hagdan, maliliit na steps.
Yes,
Ganun ba
yes
yun?
po.
Para madaling maintindihan?
Yes, opo. So kahit na mas maraming activities dahil nasasagutan po ito ng bata, mas madali nilang natatapos to. So they're able to reach the required competency. Kasi po kung titingnan natin yung unang picture kung saan mataas yung hakbang, pag hindi kasi maabot ng bata yon, hindi siya makarating sa required competency at that this can result na may learning loss, for example. So sa pag-design ng isang LAS, lalo na in high school when teachers feel that the topics are more complex. So ang nagiging role po natin dito is pag-identify paano ko to hahatiin para bite size lang to sa mga bata at hindi sila mabulunan, for example, if you wanna use that example, Sir Dave.
I'm quite curious, Sir Desi. So medyo maayos ang panahon, tapos nagkaroon ng disruption sa klase, halimbawa sa Davao Christian. Paano yun? Tumigil ba kayo tapos nag-isip, nag-worry o medyo yung transition niyo smooth dahil na-practice na po kayo na independent learning yung mga bata?
Yung pandemic po, ang isa po na inisip agad namin is how will learning continue. And we were reminded that we follow a teaching pedagogy that really promotes independent learning. Dahil kahit po before pandemic, may mga, for example po, may mga batang nag-absent sa class and they're able to continue learning through the learning activity sheets. So siguro during the pandemic, nagkaroon ng stronger belief na learning is really possible even if you are not with your students in the classroom. And right now, because we're already post-pandemic, but there are suspension of classes because of different reasons, we're able to quickly shift to another modality because we have a system in place, and this is the dynamic learning program or the independent learning system.
Sir Desi, may question dito, may sagot na rin na naisama, Pwede po bang ibigay sa amin, sa mga delegates, yung link ng learning activities ninyo para ma-download namin from grade 7 to 12? Ang sagot po dyan, yes. Stay tuned lang po to know where you can download the LAS from all subjects for all grade levels. Ito po, can we have a clearer picture of how it was actually implemented? Say, how many LAs did you give, etc.? Ito pong tanong from Mr. David.
Yes po. Sir David, this is a very good question because we have very limited class time. Minsan, ang akala ng isang teacher, you can only give one learning activity per class period, but really it depends. So for example, halimbawa po ang class period po natin ay 1 hour long. Per our experience, one learning activity sheet can be accomplished by a student in 25 to 30 minutes. So, ibig
Okay.
sabihin po nito, sa isang klase, pwede po kaming magbigay ng maximum of 2 learning activity. Minsan po, isa lang po dahil after nilang magsulat ng learning activity, dun po nagdi-discuss si teacher. So, there is no rule of thumb, pero ang importante po na lagi nating tandaan is we give it one at a time so that this will enhance absorption of lesson. So, but on the average, you will notice at the beginning, and this is similar to our case, mas nagiging mahaba ang kailangan na oras para matapos ang isang learning activity sheet. But when students are used to it already, mas nagiging mas paikli. Sir Dave, kahit na ilang taon na nagka-copy yung mga bata namin, we always notice at the start of the school year, medyo kailangan nila mag-adjust kasi siguro nung summer hindi sila nasanay. But eventually they're able to go back to their usual pace po.
Opo.
And
Ito
if
Sir
there
Desi,
are-
I think
yes po.
yes, please continue.
And in cases po na kasi minsan ang tinatanong din, paano kung may mga students na hindi nakatapos, then because everything is submitted, alam po namin kung sino yung hindi nakapagtapos, hindi pa tapos ang LAS, then students can do this during their remedial class or during their makeup class po.
Ito po, 2 questions in one, ano? First, kindly share how you were able to sustain the submissions of your students, considering that each student needs to write everything per subject and every day, especially on the part of the academically challenged learners. Second question, kindly share also how these LAS were graded, and please share also a sample of a summative test after having LAS and performance task templates.
Okay, sige po. I'll answer the first question po muna.
Sige po.
Di po ako magsisinungaling. Sa beginning po, may mga bata kaming hindi nagsasubmit dahil hindi sila they're still not used to it. So there were students who were not able to submit. However, because everything is documented, we're able to pinpoint who the students are and we're able to help them during their makeup class. And I think that's the beauty of the learning activity sheet because you know the progress of each student. And again, when you design a learning activity sheet, you're able to calculate already how much time is needed by the student para you just give enough time. So that's one. At the beginning it's challenging, but at the start of the school year, we orient parents and we orient students the reason why they have to do this, because if they know why they need to copy, then there's better buy-in. We don't want students to feel that they're being punished or they're being given a difficult task just because we want to make life more difficult for them, but because they understand that the copying is beneficial to them, then they know that it is something that they need to do even if it is challenging. And again, to those students who are academically challenged or to those students who need extra help, we're able to focus on them during their remedial classes or makeup classes. Now, regarding the second question, because the learning activity sheet is given before the lecture, we treat these learning activity sheets as formative activities. So sa amin po, ang ginagawa po namin teachers is we try to record it in terms or grade it in terms of its completeness. So pag natapos po ng bata yung pagkopya, pagsagot, kahit na hindi tama lahat ng sagot, they get a score. So
Okay.
because again, this is formative in nature. So it's more on compliance po yung pag-check namin. And then yung
Mhm.
sample naman po ng summative test, actually our summative test is very similar to the summative test we have, sorry, but it is not already copied by hand. So when we give a summative
Okay.
test, it's already printed. So it's the usual
Mhm.
summative test. So siguro we can imagine it this way. So after writing pages 1 to 10, for example, dahil na-accumulate na yung topics or lesson, then after pages 1 to 10, let's say we can give a summative test. Parang
Mhm.
ganun po. And then sa performance task template, it can be similar to how we still do it. Mhm.
Mhm. Okay. Siguro baka si Director Michael, meron siyang gustong i-add, ano? Good afternoon po. Are the activities included in the LAS? I-record po ba siya, mga learners' outputs?
Again, that will depend as well. As Sir Desi said, on their end, it's recorded. But again, the LAS technically is an assessment in itself as well. But more of like a diagnostic as to where the student is, kumbaga.
Mhm.
So one possibility is na hindi i-grade si student with regards to the LAS, but posible na tingnan lang kung ano ba yung weakness ng student doon to inform ano ba yung ile-lecture on, anong aspect yung ile-lecture on, or kung anong
Aha.
level siya. If kailangan bang balikan yung mga earlier LASs kasi hindi pa niya nagigets yung concept para sa LAS na to. So these are just some of the things that, again, to provide discretion to the teachers as to how to implement this as well.
Mhm. Galing ano yung sinasabi ni Director tsaka ni Sir Desi kanina. Parang through the LAS, nagkakaroon tayo ng data, ng better understanding of the performance of our students so we can, properly intervene. Invite ko po si Jane from PLDT and Smart to answer this question. Ano? May available na din po bang LAS for grade 7 under the curriculum? Jane, please.
Hi, good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. Magpapakilala lang po ko. Again, I'm Ma'am Jane Francisco from PLDT and Smart. We've been partnering with CVIF and DepEd para po dun sa implementation ng DLP. In terms of partnering, we've been conducting teacher capacity building para dun sa implementation nila. And dun sa tanong ni ma'am, we don't want to preempt the discussion of another ambassador later, but we're happy to share na marami tayong contents na available na po na pwedeng magamit. Again, we have contents for all grade levels, for all subjects na magiging available. These are coming from Central Visayan Institute Foundation kung saan po nagmula ang Dynamic Learning Program. We're thankful for their generosity. And of course, sa DepEd Sarangani. Ang maganda, vetted po ito at tiningnan na po. And then, Miss Donna Panes, CID Chief po, will later on discuss kung ano yung po yung mga nakamatatag aligned na contents kasi we understand nagkaroon ng full implementation muna dun sa 1, 4, and 7. And then this year, meron tayong pilot grades for 2, 3, 5, and 8. So those contents, habang kung nagpo-progress din po yung alignment ng mga learning activity sheets natin. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Sige po, Sir Desi, baka meron ka pang gustong idagdag pa doon sa mga dapat bantayan ng teacher sa kanilang sarili rin siguro kasi tinanong 'di ba na kamusta ba yung sustaining nitong mga estudyante sa mga teachers pagdating sa pag-check, sa pag-assess, anong dapat kahandaan ng mayroon sila?
I think being implementing the dynamic learning program has a learning curve. Sa simula medyo challenging siya just like any other program because hindi pa tayo sanay. But if you notice, it's one pager so it's short. So the questions we ask students to answer, they're only few because ang goal po lang talaga natin dito is hindi rin matambakan ang teacher sa pag-check. So this means that just by providing a few questions, the teachers are already able to identify kung ano yung mga difficulties or challenges ng bata sa lesson na to. Minsan din as a teacher because I think a lot of us want to share our knowledge and expertise to our students. It has been a very humbling experience as an experience for me to step back a little and to give to trust my students that they are able to answer this on their own. So sa ganung mindset po or perspective, mas nabibigyan ko ng tiwala ang mga bata na kaya nila tong sagutan, and hindi naman po na-diminish yung role nyo as a teacher kasi kayo po yung pumili ng learning activity sheet, kayo po yung nag-design nito, at after nyo pong makita yung mga sagot nila, mas maganda pa nga ho yung ginagawa nyo kasi tinitailor fit yung discussion nyo for them. So, it's a different way of teaching and learning but still as fulfilling. So, God bless po sa lahat ng mag-implement po nito soon, because again, we hope that even though there are a lot of challenges and difficulties, we're able to move forward and able to ensure that learning continues through the dynamic learning program.
Salamat po, Sir Desi, Director Michael, and MJ for this segment. At this point, we will jump to our second discussion. Let's further learn how we can operationalize the rollout of CVIF-DLP in our schools. Originating from the initial implementation site of CVIF-DLP, let us examine how the Central Visayan Institute Foundation successfully transitioned to home-based distance learning utilizing the LAS, the learning activity sheets, during the pandemic. This approach mirrors the educational strategies employed in response to various natural and human-induced disasters, including typhoons, heat waves, earthquakes, and local conflicts. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Ms. Julie Pearl Baha Aklan, Principal, Junior High School of the Central Visayan Institute Foundation. Ma'am Julie.
Thank you, Sir David. Maadjong hapon. Greetings from Hagna. Maadjong hapon sa tanan, or good afternoon, everyone. So this afternoon, I will be sharing the steps in implementing the CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. These steps include the preparation, distribution, and collections of the learning activity sheets. Kahit na naka-recover na tayong lahat from the pandemic, but itong pong isi-share ko ay parang makukunan nyo po ng idea what CVIF did during the pandemic. And we all know that CVIF-DLP is really designed to address class disruptions brought by natural disasters, and also CVIF-DLP is promoting independent, resource-efficient learning. Now, during the pandemic, we had two schedules for the distribution and collection of the CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. Next slide, please. We had Friday for the junior high school students and Monday for the senior high school department from 8 to 11:30 in the morning. Now, before classes started or prior to disseminating the schedule, CVIF conducted a survey, and based on the survey, only 6% of the students opted to online instructional mode. So therefore, the school continued to print, distribute, and collect the learning activity sheets at the designated drop-off stations in the different barangays in Hagna and to other neighboring towns of Hagna, like the towns of Garcia, Valencia, Duero, Gundulman, and among others, because we have also a lot of students coming from other towns, not just in Hagna. So as a summary, there were 19 drop-off stations, which include barangay halls, chapels, LGU covered court, and some selected elementary schools. I would like also to mention that on September 21, 2020, the Department of Education announced its endorsement of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program as independent learning strategy as a flexible learning options, or FLO, in time of education's new normal brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. To start with, so these are the steps in the preparation of the CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. First, the teacher prepares a week's worth of CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. A key component of CVIF-DLP is its self-directed learning activity sheets, which are aligned with learners' learning competencies. So in preparing the CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets, the expert teacher or the subject teachers checked if an LAS is missing based on the curriculum guide, and if an old LAS is not suitable For the recent situation, like the pandemic condition, then the teachers composed a new one and revised the LAS based on content, presentation, and formatting. We strongly discourage and avoid an LAS that requires regular grouping of students. Instead, we think of projects and strategies that are individualized. And also, we avoid an LAS that requiring the students the use of dictionaries or references or to search on the internet to answer the questions, since this is unfair to many students who do not have dictionaries at home, to those students without phone signal or internet connectivity. Instead, LAS was modified with a multiple choice type or true or false for vocabulary exercises in which students can choose the meaning from several terms. Second, the teacher prints the prepared CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. For those LAS in which there are text, numbers, or symbols or figures in light-colored font, we darken them, as this will not show up clearly with the result, and this will look faded and hard to see when reproduced in black and white using the Riso machine. So we use dark colors and thick lines to give strong contrast with the background. Third, CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets are photocopied or reproduced according to number of students per class. We had to risograph each learning activity sheet, and these LAS were reduced into 1/2 size or 1/2, such that 2 LAS are side by side on one printed page, so we can save paper. Fourth, the teacher puts the reproduced CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets in a clear envelope for each student. So it's one of the duties of the subject teachers or the expert teachers to make sure that LAS for that week have been printed and included in the weekly distribution. Of course, the collation was supervised by the principals, and each plastic envelope was labeled with student's name and section for efficient distribution at the designated drop-off stations. Fifth, the teacher puts the envelopes in bins that corresponds to pick-up points or areas for drop-off stations. Now, the plastic envelopes that contain with the learning activity sheets with more or less 32 LAS per week, because we have 8 subjects times 4 LAS per subject. So that's 32. So these plastic envelopes were placed in big plastic boxes that were brought to drop-off stations for distribution. Now let's proceed to the distribution. The steps for distribution of CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. First, the parents or guardian proceed to their designated pickup point or area, following the schedule provided for submission and pickup of CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. As I mentioned earlier, we have 2 schedules for the 2 departments, junior and senior high schools. So every Monday and Friday respectively, with 19 drop-off stations in the 4 towns, including Hagna. Second, parents or guardians drop the accomplished CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets in the designated box per grade level and sign on the submission form. It was the duty of the subject teachers to monitor and check that each enrolled students received and returned the accomplished LAS on time and noted the cases why an LAS has not been returned. Third, the parents or guardians retrieve a new batch of CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets, good for 1 week, and signed on the acknowledgement form. Now, the acknowledgement form here serve as the attendance record for each class and each subject area. Fourth, the teacher sorts the submitted CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets by grade level and then by subject for checking. In the CVIF-DLP, each LAS should be copied and handwritten by the students for deep learning and assessed by the expert teachers. So since teachers cannot lecture or cannot be physically present to students' home, so we were adapting varied assessments and interventions for distance learning. For instance, some video lectures were posted on social media platforms, and some teachers also prepared a brief discussion and interventions for the LAS and aired over Radyo Natin. Radyo Natin is a local station in Hagna. And also, students were allowed to write their questions on the LAS, and teachers addressed those questions by writing back. Now, let's watch a short video of the actual implementation of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program in the new normal. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Ma'am Julie. Bago ko po tawagin si Sir Desi, invite ko rin siya sana sumali sa atin. Ano. Ma'am Julie, naalala ko nung nakikita ko yung video na to, parang napaka-restrictive nung panahon ng pandemic, no? Anong sigh of relief ninyo na, ay buti na lang, meron kaming may activity sheet na pwedeng gamitin. Kailan po kayo medyo nakahinga ng maluwag na, oh, finally, tumatakbo ng maigi kahit merong disaster na nakaambak?
Yung siguro advantage lang po sa amin kasi we have a lot of bank LAS na kasi. So yung ginagawa na din namin is just to print and to plan ilang LAS na ibigay for that week.
Oo. So sa ngayon, parang gano'n na rin po ang situation ng ating mga eskwelahan na gagamit nitong CVIF-DLP. Meron na pong learning activity sheets, handa na po. It's plug and play na maipoprovide po ng DepEd and ng mga partners po natin. So Desi, merong tanong dito. from Miss Reynalyn, ano? Good afternoon. Question lang po, is it applicable, advisable to give the LAS to those non-readers and struggling students? Nakahanap daw po kasi sila ng mga estudyante dun sa kanilang area na merong difficulty in reading, writing, and spelling. Sir Desi and then si Ma'am Julie po.
Sige po. Because the LAS can come in different forms po. Kasi siguro ang problem nito is baka hindi pa kayang sagutan ng bata yung dapat niya, yung competencies na meron siya sa grade level niya dahil hindi pa siya marunong magbasa or struggling siya. So when that is the problem po, many things can be done during the remediation. If there's really a need to assist the student on how to read, for example, then I think that's possible through the help of the teacher. But if a student is struggling about a certain topic, for example po, ang lesson niya ngayon is algebra niya, pero napansin ng teacher na hindi niya to nasasagot dahil wala siyang good grasp of fundamental operations of integers. So dahil meron tayong LAS about how to add and subtract integers, then pwede po na yun munang ibigay natin sa bata para mas maintindihan niya yung lesson. And I remember Sir Chris and Mama Rivic telling us na once the students are able to do this, nakaka-catch up po sila eventually kasi nga po mas tutok sila doon sa basic. Minsan kasi pag alam natin kung saan nahihirapan ang bata at merong LAS for that, let's say grade 7 ang bata pero yung competencies na hindi niya paalam, let's say grade 4 or grade 5, merong mga LAS for this one na pwedeng sagutan ng bata at from there, the teacher can intervene, can make the proper intervention on how to help the student. So, possible pa naman po. And after nun po, makahabol din po yung bata.
Okay, thank you Sir Desi. Kayo Ma'am Julie, paano ba ito? Pagdating ng bata sa eskwelahan, nakita ninyo hirap siyang magbasa, magsulat, mag-spell, ika nga. Paano po tatakbo yung isang linggo, isang buwan, o yung isang learning cycle?
Yun po. Sa nakikita kung ganyan yung case, kailangan talaga, kaya importante yung LAS na dapat, yung content kasi dapat age appropriate.
Okay.
So, pag binigay natin, dapat, 'di ba, nagbigay tayo ng LAS na good for pang grade 7, grade 8 and so on. So, meron naman kaming cases na ganyan kasi ika nga no learner left behind. So, yeah, nakikita sa isang teacher na parang hindi siya marunong magbasa. But then eventually through writing every day, na-improve yung bata. Kasi at the same time, diba, nagsusulat sila, na-improve yung spelling, nakukuha nila yung correct spelling, correct grammar, and so on. So, yun, nakakatulong talaga yung nagsusulat sila everyday.
Sige po, kung meron na kayong follow-up question, please i-type nyo lang sa ating comment section o dito po sa ating Zoom o di kaya sa Facebook and YouTube and other social media pages, accounts na ginagamit ng TLTT Smart at saka ng ating DepEd Philippines. Patingin ko lang po yung mga kasama natin ngayon. The first batch, Caragasan National High School, SDO Ifugao Region CAR, Cabugao Agro Industrial High School, SDO Apayao Region CAR, Bangad National High School, Tinglayan Kalinga, Namilangan National High School, SDO Ifugao, Baay National High School, SDO Abra CAR, Santa Maria National High School, Region CAR, SDO Ifugao, Batong Buhay National High School, Pasil Kalinga, and Abas National High School, Budabosa District, SDO Abra. Balikat mamaya po yung ibang mga kasamahan natin. Patawarin niyo po ang aking innocence sa pag-aaral po yun. Kung ako teacher, magtuturo ako ng ganitong topic na, tapos yung isa kong estudyante, yun nga po, medyo challenge talaga siya or struggling. Paano gagawin ko? Ibang LAS ba yung ibibigay ko sa kanya? Paano setup nun? Halimbawa, nasa classroom o di kaya kung nasa bahay man. Sir Desi and Ma'am Julie.
What I notice about the LAS is kahit ang topic is about this, minsan yung review is integrated. So, kahit na ang lesson is about, let's say, about this topic already, pero
Mhm.
nababalikan ng mga bata yung kanilang old lesson. In an LAS, minsan may mga statement, recall in our previous activity the definition of this concept. So nababalikan ng bata. So parang habang kinokopya niya ito, parang naaalala niya yung mga, parang nabibigyan siya ng prompt kung ano yung dapat niyang maalala sa kanyang mga past lessons, for example. But
Mhm.
in cases wherein a student really needs extra help, I think that's when the make-up class or the remediation can really be of assistance, because based on how the student will answer the learning activity sheet, the teacher will already know um, kung anong klasing tulong ang pwede niyang mabigay sa bata para mabalik siya doon sa class niya, for example. There
Mhm.
are cases, Sir Dave, for example, pero this is isolated na instead of asking a student to proceed to the next activity, binigyan ko muna siya ng parang practice drills kasi
Mhm.
napansin ko na hirap siya doon. But I allotted extra time for him to finish the next activity. And once I saw that okay na siya dito, then he was able to proceed to the next one para lang to gain confidence, at the same time to ensure that this student is ready for the next activity po.
Mhm. Maganda yung nabanggit mo, Sir Desi, kasi ibig sabihin ngayon, doble-doble man yung challenges na kakaharapin ng isang estudyante, ng isang guro, o ng isang school community. Now we have the learning activity sheets
Yes po.
created by experts, their fellow
Mm.
teachers in DepEd, and partners in the private school, and of course in the central office, na pwedeng ibigay. O di kaya, sabi mo nga kanina ni Ma'am Julie, para ka ng director of knowledge. So ika nga may assessment ka na, meron ka ng data na ngayon, o sige, itong LAS ang magandang iporma natin. Especially ngayong panahon na meron tayong disaster, para ma-ensure na tuloy-tuloy yung learning, na-address yung mga mismong pangangailangan ng mga estudyante. Okay. Kung sakali ito po, again, pwede siyang ma-download, ano? Sabi ni Director Michael, meron tayong ibibigay na link later, and then I think some resource kung saan pwedeng makuha yung mga activity sheets. Tama po, ano? For those na meron pong follow-up questions, please i-type niyo lang po sa ating, ayan, good PM po, participating from dito. Let me open this chat. Okay. Nasabi po ni Madam Julie na complete po ang LAS nila. Can we have those copies for our learners' consumptions? Thank you very much po for your generosity. Ma'am Julie?
Sorry
Available po ang LAS ninyo?
Yes po, the LAS, the CVIF-DLP Learning Activity Sheets is available on the website cvifbohol.com/e-learning. Lahat doon naka-upload na, makikita nila doon lahat ng mga LAS from grade 7 to grade 12.
Ma'am Julie, anong observation mo nung panahon na pandemic or merong disaster sa eskwelahan niya na apekto, no? Gaano kabilis naka-transition yung mga bata? Bukod nga sa dahil ginagamit na talaga nila ito, no? Okay naman sila? Nag-i-air ba sila ng mga concerns kapag nasa bahay lang sila doing their learning activity sheets? Anong mga positive na nangyari?
Minimal naman siguro yung mga problema na inaano nila, no? So during the pandemic kasi, it's a good advantage for us kasi nasasanay na yung mga bata. Kasi pag gano'n na may mga class suspension, talagang binibigyan din namin sila ng mga hard copies for them to do at home. So parang hindi na ito bago sa kanila yung gano'n na magsusulat.
Opo. Yeah, okay, thank you. So, again, yung mga LAS po na ito, yung ready na, plug and play, pwede nyo na pong gamitin agad. There will be a shared drive where schools can download the LAS from CVIF and DepEd Sarangani. Okay, so wala na silang masyadong iisipin sa ngayon kasi handang-handa na, nagkaroon tayo ng orientation, and then, yun na nga, medyo siguro brief assessment lang kung paano ito magandang mailatag, at good to go na po tayo para dito. Ang learning activity sheet po ay one page, huwag tayong magugulat. Sabi nga ni Sir Desi, no, tsaka ni Ma'am Judy, kasi nga dapat po lahat ng essentials muna ang nakatutok dito. It's mastery over coverage. Tapos, Sir Desi and Ma'am Julie, ano ba yan? Parang ang bagal kasi pag isa-isa lang ang bigay natin ng activity sheets. Pwede nga ako paki-reiterate ninyo yon. Paano nakakatulong na pa isa-isa ang bigay natin at bumibilis ba ito kalaunan?
And sige, I'll answer first po. So,
Opo.
at the beginning, it's really going to be a bit slow because the students will be adjusting. But again, they're able to pace themselves. Minsan din po na may mga learning activity that will require more time. Let's say a learning station, a lab report. So mas maraming time po ang kailangan. Pero one thing po that we really notice because the students know that this is important for them, nagseseryoso po sila at they try to make use of their time in the classroom to finish the learning activity. Siguro din po kasi Sir Dave dahil walang homeworks, 'di ba? So alam nila na hindi nila pwede ito iuwi sa bahay dahil kailangan nilang tapusin ito sa classroom sa school po. So with regards to that, merong period of adjustment. For example po sa amin ang mga grade 7, nag-a-adjust talaga sila sa beginning. Lagi nilang sinasabi, pagod na kaming mag-copy ng notes, bakit ito lang yung ginagawa? But eventually, they will get used to it. And it also becomes fulfilling or satisfying for them kasi nasasagutan nila ito on their own even without the intervention of the teacher. At I think ito yung malaking tulong na nabibigay ng dynamic learning program sa mga bata na ma-equip sila ng independent learning, which is actually a lifelong learning skill na kailangan ng mga bata when they go to the university and even when they apply for jobs in the future. Kailangan may initiative sila, may resourceful sila, independent po sila.
Totoo, no? Bukod dun sa talino, dapat yung character mo nabibuild din, ano? Yung
Yes,
disiplina.
parang nga po, parang yung values na ko-concretize talaga, disiplina, and I'm sure si Ma'am Julie can share more of that because yun po ang nakita namin sa CVIF at doon ho kami na-inspire at sabi namin sana maging ganito din yung mga students namin.
Ma'am Julie, siguro maybe you can talk about the resilience that's developed doon sa mga estudyante ninyo.
Yes po. Yun na din yung sinabi ni Mr. Desi. Kasi yung mga bata kasi pag everyday sila nandito sa school, talagang pag nakikita pa lang nila yung activity sheet, parang they have already the habit to do the activities every day. So yun. So, kahit na yung mga medyo ayaw pang gustong magsulat, parang nahihila sila yun. Kasi collaborative learning is strong. Diba? So yung mga ayong magsulat, parang nakikita nila yung mga kaklase na nagsulat. So eventually, ganun na din yung ginagawa nila. So at the same time, they also learning the value of organization. Kasi diba, file yung mga LAS nila in different portfolio. Sila talagang nagpa-file. At saka at the end of the quarter, nakikita yun sa mga parents. Masaya yung mga parents nakikita nila na nakakompile lahat ng mga output ng mga anak nila. So, satisfying din yun. Makikita namin sa side sa mga teachers.
Siguro ho, as a last question, meron pong tanong dito from Miss Edeline. Good afternoon po. Ma'am, what are the considerations to be addressed in order to revise an LAS? Anong mga dapat na isipin nila as they revise?
Siguro yung kailangan lang siguro nilang i-modify yung sa mga part of exercises. Like for example, sa mga activities na kailangan na may mga groupings, we strongly discourage for that in times na nasa bahay, di ba? And using of some materials or references na not available at home. So yun lang siguro yung mga kailangan nilang i-modify for now.
Okay. Tapos yun nga, yung pag-localize din, napaka-importante na i-consider din po natin as we revise our learning activity sheets. Okay. Maraming salamat po. If you still have questions, please, paki-chat lang po dyan and then later babalikan po natin. Thank you so much, Ma'am Julie and Sir Desi. To further our discussion, as previously noted by Ms. Stephanie Orlino, the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program has experienced substantial growth since its inception in 2002. The program has successfully trained 16,000 educators and is currently being implemented in over 1,000 educational institutions. kilalanin po natin sino ba itong mga implementers na ito. Ang kwento nila, let's welcome Ms. Donna Panes, CID Chief from DepEd Sarangani.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank PLDT and SMART and DepEd Central Office for inviting me here to share our story about CVIF Dynamic Learning Program in the Division of Sarangani. It is great to see you all here. I am Donna Panes, the Chief of the Curriculum Implementation Division of Sarangani. Today, I'll be sharing to you our experience in the implementation of the Dynamic Learning Program during the time, during pandemic or before pandemic, during pandemic, during the time that we were stricken by heat index, flood, peace and order challenge, and even in the face-to-face learning modality. Firstly, I would like to give you a brief background about Sarangani province. Why did we embrace DLP? How did we start CVIF-DLP? How did we implement CVIF-DLP in the province? And what are our innovations? And lastly, what are the impacts of this program in the Sarangani and our ways forward? May I bring to you to Sarangani, aside from this is the province of our famous boxer Manny Pacquiao, Sarangani is a showcase of cultural diversity and inclusivity. It is a haven where the indigenous peoples are not marginalized but are very much part of community building, policy making, and governance. Sarangani is located in the southernmost part mainland of Mindanao. It is one of the poorest provinces in the Philippines. It is predominantly inhabited by the indigenous peoples, represented by the 55% of its total population. There are three major tribes here, the Blaan, the Tiboli, and the Tagakaolo. We have a total of 325 schools, of which 220 have 90 to 100% indigenous peoples enrollment. And most of the IP schools are located in far-flung and geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas with no electricity, no mobile signal, and no internet. Ganyan kalayo at kahirap ng mga schools namin sa Division of Sarangani. Now, may I share to you the reasons why we embrace the CVIF-DLP in the Division of Sarangani. First of which is language mismatch. Marami kami mga teachers at saka mga estudyante from kinders to grade 3 that they use learning materials not in their mother tongue, and our teachers do not speak the language of their learners. Another reason is resource gap. There is a shortage of teaching and learning materials for our Muslim and IP students that match the culture, context, and language of our learners. Number 3, we don't have enough fund to provide our learning material per student. And lastly, logistic challenge. Sa nasabi ko kanina, napakalayo ng mga paaralan namin, it is hard to deliver bulky learning resources to remote schools. So ito yung context ng Division of Sarangani. In 2017, pumunta ang PLDT and SMART sa Division of Sarangani. Next slide, please. They introduced to us the CVIF-DLP. Then, after the convergence with SMART and PLDT, we were able to come up in the development of the 2,500 learning activity sheets for the Blaan, Tagakaulo, Antiboli learners of 7 pilot schools. Ito yung mga panahon na wala pang pandemic. So we also, with our partnership with this organization, the SMART and PLDT, we were able to train 60 teachers and honed DLP ambassadors to support iPad and Alive classes. And from 7 pilot schools, we expanded to 45 IP schools in 2019. And we were able to facilitate DepEd-led workshop to develop 5,600 contextualized learning activity sheets for the K-3 Indigenous peoples learners across learning areas. So wala pang pandemic, 2017 pa lang, na-embrace na namin ang dynamic learning program because of those reasons I've mentioned in a previous slides. During pandemic, next slide please. During pandemic, nagkaroon kami ng problema in the utilization of the SLM. Kasi alam naman natin na ang SLM ay nasa 32 pages yon. So nagka-problema yung mga teachers as well as parents, pati na ang mga estudyante sa paggamit ng SLM. Number one na problema namin is the howling of the bulk of SLM papunta sa mga malalayong lugar kasi kailangan pa namin isakay sila ng kabayo. Number two, we have experienced SLM na nababalik sa mga teachers na walang sagot galing sa mga estudyante because 32 pages times number of subjects ay napakahaba or it is very lengthy on the part of the students to read. That's why siguro hindi na nila nasasagot or sabihin natin hindi na talaga nila kakayanin na babasahin yan in one setting. And also, during that time, I am wearing 2 hats. I am wearing the hat of the CID in the division of Sarangani. And at the same time, I am wearing the hat of a mother of a grade 2 pupil. So doon ko nakita kung gaano nagtatantrum ang grade 2 na bata kapag binabasa niya ang 32 pages na SLM. So binalikan ko ang learning activity sheet. Sabi ko sa mga education program supervisors ng Sarangani, sabi ko, EPS, pakitingnan daw natin ang last kung makukover nito ang lahat ng competencies stipulated in the SLM. So nagkaroon kami ng workshop, mga 1 week yun siya na workshop. So may recommendation ang mga education program supervisors natin. Sabi nila, ma'am, kayang-kaya lang makukover ng last ang lahat ng mga competencies. So after having this workshop, nag-recommend kami sa former superintendent namin, Sir Hildo Mosqueda. Sabi ko, sir, ganito yung mga experiences natin sa SLM. Isa pang experience namin sa SLM dati ay yun bang hindi na natutulog yung mga teachers sa pagpiprint ng SLM. Every night nagpiprint na sila, the following week magpiprint pa rin sila. So parang dito sa Sarangani parang kahirap itawid ng SLM. Nangyari yan siya during pandemic, first year of pandemic, first quarter. So yun, because of the recommendation of the education program supervisor, our content expert sa division of Sarangani, nakakayanin lang ng LAS na itawid ang mga competencies. So we recommend this to our superintendent. That's why we decide to transition from SLM to learning activity sheets. So from 7 schools, we expanded to 47 schools. And during pandemic, nag-full implementation kami sa 323 schools during second quarter. On the third quarter, kung maalala ninyo, may delays tayo sa pagdating ng SLM galing ng central office. So dito sa Division of Sarangani, hindi kami masyadong na-alarm because we are ready with the learning activity sheets for the third quarter. In fact, ito ang ginamit ng Region 12 while waiting for the SLM coming from the central office for the third grading at saka sa fourth grading. So, in short, parang ito siya ang nakapag-save during the time na walang magagamit ang mga bata namin sa Region 12. So, on top of school-based printing, the division office also provided printed glass to schools amounting to 26 million. So bali ang lahat ng pondo namin, instead na i-print namin ng SLM, ay binuhos na namin sa pag-print ng LAS at yun na ang pinamigay namin sa aming mga schools. During the suspension of classes, due to high heat index, kung halimbawa gagamitin ang mga teachers natin to coach in sports, in journalism, sa mga National Festival of Talents, ito na rin ang ginagamit ng mga teachers natin na activity ng mga bata na gagawin nila while absent or wala ang teacher sa school. And also, we utilized Blaan and other mobile literacy apps developed in partnership with the Smart PLDT. So yun ang story ng transition ng SLM to total transition ng SLM to learning activity sheets sa DepEd of Sarangani. May I share to you, next slide please. May I share to you the impact of DLP in Sarangani. So division office and schools have reduced reproduction costs. Marami kaming na-save. Instead na, kasi ang budget ng SLM dati ay parang 1:3, no? 1:3 na bata. Isang SLM, 3 bata. So medyo nahihirapan kami because of our geography. So with LAS, nagkakaroon kami ng 1:1 na proportion sa pag-distribute namin ng learning activity sheet sa aming mga estudyante. Delivery and retrieval of the less bulky LAS has become easier and done in a timely manner. So madaling ibigay kasi nga one sheet of paper lang siya at madali lang ding i-retrieve. Hindi mo na kailangang magkabayo, hindi mo na kailangang mag-skylab para i-retrieve siya because one LAS, one subject, one competency or kapag hindi nakakaya ng isang LAS sa isang competency, we are making a maximum of 3 LAS para sa isang competency and that is for 1 week already. And then development of the LAS take lesser time, thus teachers have more time in the development of other content across learning areas. And also, napakadali ng pag-monitor at saka ng pag-evaluate kasi nga at a glance, nakikita mo ang score ni bata. No? Nakikita ka agad doon sa assessment part, makikita mo kung 10/10 si bata, 7/10. So at a glance, nakikita mo kagad, napakadali siyang i-assess at napakadali siyang i-monitor. And also, readily available learning resources in times of distance learning. So, we have our SDS gave a marching order na lahat ng mga paaralan ay kailangang mag-print talaga ng learning activity sheets so that in the event na magkakancel ang mayor, magkakancel ang governor, or gagamitin ang mga teachers natin sa very important activity, may ibibigay kaagad ang school. And also reduced number of non-readers, especially in far-flung schools. So we have proven this because namomonitor namin yung mga results ng reading assessment namin and we find it very useful kasi nga may concrete material na nagagamit ang bata sa pagbasa. Hindi lang sa pagbasa, kundi higit sa lahat sa pagsulat. And may I present to you also the impact of learning activity sheets in the integrating of the DLP LAS in the indigenous people's education. Number one, learners are more interested to learn because the materials are written in a language that is familiar to them. So aside sa general learning activity sheets na na-develop namin, meron kaming learning activity sheets intended for the 3 indigenous peoples. So pwede rin ninyo itong ma-contextualize, itong i-share namin sa inyo, pwede nyo itong i-translate, pwede nyo i-contextualize sa language na kung saan maiintindihan ng inyong mga indigenous peoples learners. So alam naman natin na kapag naiintindihan ng bata ay napakadaling i-facilitate hindi lang ang reading, kundi higit sa lahat ang comprehension. So, good results of assessments because activities are simple, instructions and concepts are clear and concise. So, na detailed naman kanina or na-discuss in details ni Sir Desi kung ano ba ang itsura ng learning activity sheets. So, very simple, very precise, very concise. Sabi ko nga sa mga teachers, ano ba talaga ang gusto nating malalaman ng mga estudyante? Pag sinabi nila na, ma'am, ganitong competency, nakikita ka agad kung ano yung gustong malalaman, anong gustong matutunan ng mga bata at a glance sa learning activity sheets. Improvement in performance levels in learning areas as comprehension is achieved, language and culture are preserved and promoted. And there is a community ownership of the program because their culture is integrated in the learning activity sheets. So when we contextualize our learning activity sheets, we really involve the culture bearer para mas lalo nating ma-appreciate at ma-preserve ang indigenous knowledge systems and practices ng ating mga indigenous people. So una-una, ang plano lang talaga ng Division of Sarangani is to introduce the LAS sa mga IP-dominated schools natin. So later on, na-realize namin na mas gamit pala siya during pandemic. So, after the pandemic, akala namin hindi na namin magamit. So, nung may mga cancellation of classes kami, ginagamit pa rin namin. At the same time, sa face-to-face, ginagamit din ito ng mga teachers as supplemental materials. So, our ways forward, may I share to you pala our key performance indicators as we use the learning activity, use the DLP, makikita natin dito that increasing ang KPI ng Division of Sarangani from participation, transition, completion, promotion, and graduation. And may I share to you our ways forward. We continue to use learning activity sheets as supplementary material in face-to-face modality. Continue with the development of contextualized learning activity sheets. Pagpatuloy pa rin namin ang pag-contextualize nito para sa appreciation and preservation ng IKSP ng aming mga IPs dito. Ongoing workshop sessions to enhance and digitize existing learning activity sheets embedded in the learning management system of DepEd. Sa ngayon, patuloy naming dinidigitize ang mga existing learning activity sheets, especially sa kinder, grade 1, grade 4, and grade 7. Meron na tayong available na mga learning materials, digitized learning materials based on the learning activity sheets for the matatag curriculum. And we are very willing to share this. So may mga katanungan kanina kung papaano ba natin ito maitatawid pag walang kuryente, walang internet. Ang konteksto po ng Sarangani, bakit nabuhay ang learning activity sheets, it's because marami kaming school na walang kuryente, marami kaming school na wala pang daan, may mga schools kami na wala ding internet. So ito yung pinamimigay namin kasi aside sa kokonti lang, ay napakadali siyang ituro. May mga katanungan din kanina na nakita ko na paano ba yung may mga challenge learners kung paano namin na itatawid ito. Well, sa mga challenge learners, kailangan talaga natin ng assistance sa parents or kung sino man ang pwedeng mag-assist sa kanila kasi supposedly, ang learning activity sheets ay intended para sa mga independent learners. Pero dito sa Division of Sarangani, nag-develop talaga kami ng learning activity sheets para sa kinder up to grade 3, maliban sa 4th up to grade 12, kahit alam namin na hindi independent learners ang K-3, pero kaakibat niyan ay nag-mentor kami ng mga parents para sila yung mag-a-assist sa K-3 natin. Kasi Alam naman natin, may pandemic man o wala, itong K-3, this is really the basic education na kailangan nating matutukan, na hindi lang pwede nating iasa sa mga teachers, kundi higit sa lahat, kailangan na ipagtutulungan natin with the parents and somehow with the stakeholders at kung sino-sino pa para at least somehow ma-strengthen natin ang foundation sa K-3. With this, the Division of Sarangani, in behalf of our Superintendent Ruth Estacio, we are very willing to share our outputs in the learning activity sheets. Dumaan ito siya sa proseso ng LRMDS. Meron tayong development, meron tayong evaluation, at meron din tayong quality assurance na ginawa at saka field testing. Ginawa talaga namin ang lahat para mapaganda ito. Pero in the event na may makikita kayo na mali, feel free to tell us para makorek natin, because this output is a continuous improvement that somehow mapagtulungan natin as one DepEd in the Philippines na makatulong din sa mga panahon na kagaya nito na nangyari sa stricken by the Typhoon Kristine. With this, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Ma'am Donna, thank you so much. Magpahinga ka muna, ma'am. Ano? Babatiin ko lang itong mga kasama natin ngayon from Southern Hingyon National High School, SDO Ifugao, ISNHS, SDO Vigan City, Posya National High School, SDO Ifugao, Ubao National High School Extension, Aguinaldo District, SDO Ifugao, Hingyon National High School, Kaish, Kabugao District, SDO Apayao, Tulaed NHS, SDO Ifugao Car, Amlimay IS, Bugias Benguet, SDO Vigan Pantay Integrated School, Rojas National High School, SDO Baguio, SDO Ifugao, Santa Maria National High School, Cayapa National High School, SDO Abra, and Ilocos Sur National High School, Vigan City. Ma'am Donna, bakit po napakasipag ninyo? Kasi, I mean, nung binabagin nyo kanina, no? Nagko-cross kayo ng mga 56 rivers just to get to the school. Sinasakay ninyo sa kabayo. Bukod pa doon, hindi lang isang set ng learning activity sheets yung ginagawa ninyo. Kasi nga, as you mentioned, there are 3 tribes po, major tribes in your area, plus ito pong iba pa pong mga types ng students. Saan po ninyo nakuha yung inspiration or yung motivation or yung drive, to create these learning activity sheets, to customize, contextualize?
Sir David, pag andito ka kasi sa Sarangani, sir, at saka kung makapunta ka sa mga napakalayo naming paaralan, para bang nare-renew yung humility mo to serve more. Kasi despite nga ng mga social services na nare-receive ng mga tao sa patag, marami pa rin tayong mga schools na deprived ng social services like daan, like kuryente, like internet connectivity. And yet, ang dami naming estudyante doon. At saka, puro talaga 100% ng mga IPs. Kaya sabi ko sa sarili ko, kailangan paigtingin ang humility, ang serbisyo, kasi nga kailangan tayo nila. Yun lang inspiration namin sa Sarangani.
Boy, mabuhay po ang mga teachers ng DepEd, ha? Palakpakan nyo yung mga sarili ninyo. Kasi 'di ba, I mean, kita nyo from the north, sa gitnang Pilipinas, sa south, pare-pareho tayo ng ng pinagdaraanan. Siguro iba-ibang sitwasyon lang, pwedeng as is, gano'n na nga, katulad kina Ma'am Donna, kahit walang disaster, iba-iba na ang konteksto. Dito naman sa area natin, iba-iba yung bagyo, baha, lindol na dumaraan. Pero we're really thankful to the leadership of the Department of Education for seeing hope dito sa mga ganitong klaseng programa na inilulugod po namin sa inyo, itong CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Thank you, Ma'am Donna. Meron pong tanong dito, siguro Sir Desi, I can invite you to please help us answer this. In senior high school, is it possible to have peer checking of LAS?
Okay. The reason why we have the learning activity sheet is for the teachers to know how each student answers it. So pag pinapacheck ko kasi natin sa bata, hindi po natin nakikita yung data na gusto natin. Kasi kung tayo po yung mag-check, nalalaman natin kung paano nila to sasagutin. Kaya nga po
Opo.
sa isang LAS ko, we don't have a lot of questions. You only put a few questions at the end so that it will not also be that taxing to the teachers. Aside from that po, I think one reason why we don't allow it is also kasi po ayaw natin na meron pong ma-humiliate na bata kasi po alam ng kaklase niya kung paano niya sinagutan yung LAS. Para po
Opo.
maiwasan yan, kasi minsan nangyayari po yan sa classroom, we decided na tayong mga teachers yung mag-check kasi tayo naman po yung dapat makakuha nung data na gusto natin para po ma-tailor fit po yung discussion natin. So, I know that maybe there's a reason why, but it will defeat the purpose, the very important purpose of knowing how students answer. So it is very important that it is the teacher that will check the learning activity sheets of the students.
Thank you, Sir Desi. Kumbaga, dito, more than the score, we want to look at how a child thinks to the way he or she answers yung
That's
mga
right.
questions. Okay. Natututo na ako sa mga ambassadors natin eh. Ito po, mayroong comment from Facebook kay Miss Renelita, letter A. I strongly agree po doon sa writing of lessons by the learners because in writing, all other skills are enhanced like spelling, vocabulary. They become familiar with the words used. It helps also in comprehension and increased retention. Para po doon sa mga gusto pang mag-comment and magtanong, may clarifications, please use our chats, mag-comment po kayo. Para doon, tanong ko lang din sa mga kasamahan natin sa Department of Education ngayon, yung naranasan na technicalities pinagdaanan ng DepEd Sarangani and then yung mga challenges nila. Ganon din po ba sa inyo? Sa ngayon na nakikita nyo na yung CVIF-DLP na thankfully plug and play natin gagawin ngayon. Pero later on, palagay nyo po, pagdadaanan nyo rin po ba yung mga ganong questions? And Ma'am Donna, kayo po, kasi meron pa kayong vetting process. Importante po yun, na aprobado ng DepEd yung ating gagawin ng mga LAS.
Yes, sir. Kailangan talaga kasi empowered naman kasi tayo sa division. May LRMDS process kasi tayo na sinusunod dito. Pag dumaan naman ito sa process, it is almost safe naman. Pero we cannot do away with some improvements somehow kung may makikita tayo. So we will work together para mas lalo nating mapaganda ito.
Opo. Tapos, tama ako, we want to reiterate na ang CVIF-DLP is a way of teaching, is a template. Hindi binabago naman ang curriculum. Kumbaga naka-angkla po tayo doon. Tama po, Ma'am Donna?
Tama po, sir. Wala tayong binago. Pareho lang tayo nagtuturo, no? Parang as usual. Kaya lang ito na na-compress siya in one sheet na andoon ang concept digest, andoon activity. Yun naman talaga ang usual natin na ginagamit. Kaya lang ito is more specific at saka precise.
Opo. Okay. Ma'am Donna, itanungin ko na lang din po, yung mga stakeholders po natin, yung mga estudyante, mga bata, kamusta po yung reaction nila nung una nilang, meron ho ba kayo nakitang remarkable improvement sa kanilang performance o sa kanilang disposition sa mga sarili nung una ninyong in-implement itong DLP gamit ang LAS hanggang sa ngayon na medyo nakuha na po natin ng patakbo?
Alam mo, sir, bakit nagkaroon kami ng transition nito? Kasi nga, witness talaga ako kung gaano na trauma yung mga estudyante sa SLM.
Saka yung anak mo ka na
Yung anak ko umiiyak. Nag-aaway na talaga kami. Sabi ko, my God, I am representing the mother here. Sabi ko. So, kaya yun. And then, based sa monitoring namin, may sinasauli na SLM na walang answer. So, hindi naman natin sila mapilit. So, after that, ang dami naming na-receive na magandang feedback. Ma'am, andito lang naman pala itong napakadali, friendly, teachers friendly ha, kasi hindi sila magpiprint ng ang dami-dami. Alam baya natin ha, na ang mga teachers natin ay hindi na natutulog sa pagpiprint. Ang unang natuwa talaga doon, mga teachers. Pangalawa, parents. Kasi alam naman natin na ang parents ang nag-a-assist sa mga estudyante, di ba? Then of course, ang mga learners, lalo pa yung mga junior, yung mga independent learners natin, yung high school at saka senior high school, na maraming feedback, positive feedback, na nare-receive ang division. Kaya nga, yun ang deciding point namin na mag-transition na.
Mhm. Ma'am Donna, may question po dito. Yung Learning Activity Sheet or LAS na nasa link, base siya sa MELTs ng previous curriculum, grade 7. Paano po gagawin kung sa present or current curriculum po?
Okay, please understand na ang matatag curriculum natin in kinder, grade 1 at grade 4 and grade 7 ay ngayong taon ang full implementation. So dito sa Sarangani, ang nakaya lang talaga namin gawin is ang pag-digitized ng kinder, grade 1, grade 4 at saka grade 7. Pero the rest ng mga grade levels ay nasa MELC sila. At yun pa man din ang gagamitin natin ngayon, di ba? Ang matatag lang naman natin ngayon is the grade 1, 4, and 7. So, we are willing to share also yung mga materials namin na na-align nga sa matatag curriculum na digitized siya.
Okay, so I hope na nasagot po yung tanong na yun, ano? Very good po. Meron nag-comment dito, ang galing ni ma'am. Na totoo naman, magaling na, matyaga pa, no?
Maraming
Yung tips.
salamat.
Oo. Alam niyo ma'am, palagi ko magandang ano, no? Maganda yung experience mo na at the same time nasa DepEd ka tapos parent ka ng isang young student. Pagdating po ba sa ano, sa mga teachers natin, paano nila napaprocess kaya yon? Nakakausap ba nila ng madalas yung mga parents or ano bang feedbacking nun? Kasi importante rin yun no? Dahil partner natin sila kapag naibigay na itong mga LAS at nagsagot na sila sa bahay.
Sari-saring experience ang na-experience ko as chief kasi nga may hinuhugutan din ako na experience sa anak ko. Sometimes, ang mga teachers natin itatag ang mga learners natin, itong mga Generation Alpha at saka itong mga Gen Z as mga tamad na, mga ano na ganit, sabi ko, no, they are the cutest, they are the most innovative.
There you go.
Makikibaka ko talaga kasi nga kailangan nating sumabay sa generation nila kasi sometimes may generation gap na kasi napakalaki ng gap ni teacher at saka ni bata.
Totoo.
So itong materials na ito, sabi ko, open the last, use the last para hindi kayo para hindi rin tayo somehow matag natin ang mga learners natin. Hindi na bumabasa kasi dami-dami naman nating binibigay na activities. 32 pages times number of subjects. You cannot imagine a learner could read that. So kailangang timplahin, kailangang i-balance din natin kung ano yung interest ng mga generation na ito.
Okay. I'd like to invite si Director Michael, no? May tanong po dito, kailangan bang i-check ng school LR committees yung LAS na gagawin namin before giving to learners or hindi na po?
Ayan. Una-una i-reiterate lang po natin na may mga LAS na po na available. So plug and play na po yun. Yung mga ibibigay po ng salamat po ulit sa SDO Sarangani. At yung available po from CVIF, downloadable na po yun, directly implementable na po. So ibibigay na lang po sa mga bata yun. So yung mga yun po na quality assurance naman po yun. If gagawa naman po ng bagong LAS po, ayun po ang wala pa pong guidelines po so far. Kasama po yun sa pag-usapan natin mamaya na may sort of rollout naman po for as ADM, as a mainstream ADM. So gagawa pa po ng mga guidelines para doon po. Pero yung mga existing na po na galing po sa SDO Sarangani at sa CVIF ay na quality assure na po at pwede na po yung i-run po sa ating mga schools po.
Okay, thank you, Director. I hope nasagot po namin yung tanong ninyo, no? There's a comment here from Gianna H. Inspiring po kayo, Madam. Salamat sa sharing. O, di ba? Talaga naman. Oy, dalaw tayong Sarangani. Tumawid tayo ng 56 na. Naranasan ko yan, nung nasa isang telco ako. Grabe talaga naman. Totoo palang tumatawid ka ng ng ilog. At hindi ka lang basta tatawid ng sapa na pantay ang tubig. Talagang may current siya. Kailangan mo ng kahawak para makapunta ron sa kabila. Anyway, Saludo po kami sa inyong lahat. Hindi lang ngayon hindi lang ilog ang tatawirin kundi pati baha. No, pati mga bumukang lupa dahil sa earthquake. And thankfully, we have the leadership of the Department of Education, CVIF as our partner, and SMART and PLDT para dito po sa DLP or LAS gagamitin po natin. Plug and play, ulitin ko po it's plug and play, approved na po iyon, quality assured na, sabi ni Director Michael, yung mga manggagaling dito sa ating partners, especially kay DepEd Sarangani at kay CVIF. Ayun, siguro, ito, basahin ko pa po from Miss Joanne. Good afternoon everyone watching from Santo Tomas, NHS Santo Tomas District. Ma'am Donna, siguro maybe a final message na pwede mong iwanan, an encouragement as they proceed with the makeup classes using the DLP LAS.
Once again, thank you so much for this opportunity. It is very humbling to be here to all of you. My takeaway is we keep on we keep on inspiring our colleagues, no, kung sino man ang andito, principal, teacher, official man ng DepEd, kailangan talaga natin ang inspirational leadership kasi once na inspired ang bawat isa, napakadali ng trabaho, and we will always consider our learners as our gem na kailangan talaga nating matulungan sila despite of circumstances because walang ibang tutulong sa kanila kundi tayo mismo na nasa Department of Education. Always remember that we are the chosen few, no? Sa dinami-dami ng tao, tayo ang inaasahan, tayo ang napili para patuloy nating hubugin ang full potential ng ating mga estudyante. Maraming salamat and stay positive and inspired always.
Thank you, Ma'am Donna, Sir Desi, and Ma'am Jolie. Salamat po. To conclude our discussion, we will now turn our attention to the actual implementation of DLP in your respective schools. The following segment will explore potential strategies and innovative approaches to address the challenges we've discussed. To guide us better, may we now call, once again, Director Mick Cabatuan from the Office of the Secretary of DepEd. Director?
Hi, magandang hapon po. So, pag-usapan po natin ngayon, kumbaga, yung ating implementation. So, how we're going to be implementing DLP in our schools, given the context that we provided over the past few hours. The next, please. Next, please. Okay. So, pag-usapan na po muna natin na itong ginagawa natin ngayon, yung pag-implement ng DLP as an ADM is theoretically for ADM in disaster hit areas lang po muna. So it started off, of course, with Kristine hit areas. So that includes Region CAR 1, 2, 3, 4A, and 5. Unahin po yun kasi sila po yung pinaka-apektado ng bagyong Kristine. Tapos nung pinag-usapan po with the regional directors, it seems na may ibang mga SDOs na affected pa rin ng mga previous na mga bagyo. So lahat ng mga Kristine hit areas at mga areas na tinamaan ng bagyo prior to Kristine, sinama na po sa initiative po na ito. So ulit, for Region GAR, mga 8 divisions po ang kasama. For Region 1, mga 3. For Region 2, mga 7. For Region 3, mga 6. For Region 4A, lahat po ng SDOs ay sinama. And for Region 5 ay 6 na SDOs. Tapos pwede rin po itong gamitin for other and upcoming disaster hit areas. So pag na-implement nyo po yung DLP sa inyong mga SEO, sa inyong mga schools, at onward may nangyari po uli na disaster, pwede nyo rin po uli gamitin yung DLP as a mechanism po for emergency situations. Next. So the question is yung modality of implementation. Ang main point po namin dito ay kayo po ang nakakaalam kung how best to implement DLP in your schools, in your SDOs, and in your regions. So the regions, the divisions, and schools will be given the flexibility to implement as long as the pillars of the DLP are implemented. So based po sa usapan natin nung unang presentation, ano po yung mga parte ng DLP? Kailangan lang po sundin yung mga yon. And then kayo po ang bahala, kumbaga, or kayo ang magde-decipher or magde-determine kung paano i-implement po in that case. May mga ano lang po, kailangan i-take into account. Unang-una, napag-usapan po kanina yung kakayahan po ng ating independent learners to implement DLP. So, ang key stage 1 po kasi natin, usually hand-holding po yan for basic literacy, basic numeracy. So, ipo-prioritize po natin ang ating key stage 1 for full in-person classes at ang paggamit ng mga temporary learning spaces. So, if kunwari kulang po tayo sa classrooms dahil po sa nangyari ng bagyo, ang uunahin po natin sana na i-full in-person class ang grade 1, ang kinder hanggang grade 3. Tapos, kung yung temporary learning spaces po, ipo-prioritize po natin si key stage 1 po doon. Pangalawa, yung CVIF-DLP shall be further integrated as a mainstream ADM in the upcoming ADM policy. So, emergent ito. Kumbaga, magagamit natin yung DLP for the current situation, pero on the end of the central office po, under the Bureau of Learning Delivery, ay ini-integrate na po ang CVIF-DLP as a form of a formal ADM. Na-mention ko po kanina na may mga guidelines pa po na lalabas pagdating po dito sa ADM using DLP. Yun po, i-integrate po yun sa policy na yun for release later on at i-mainstream na rin siya sa lahat ng regions po. So kayo po yung mauuna sa pag-implement po nito at yung information na makukuha po namin from your implementation ay magagamit rin po namin sa pag-finalize po ng policy for ADM using DLP. Pangatlo, let's remember to manage our stakeholders. Malaki po ang change management na kailangan po dito sa DLP. Kailangan pong kausapin yung ating parents, ang mga students, kasi malaking change po ito. Pero, as discussed in the initial presentation ni Sir Desi, it's based on sound scientific basis naman, and we have the experience of multiple DepEd schools already and private schools nationwide who have implemented DLP. So in this case po, medyo sound naman po siya. Kailangan na po i-communicate yung mga necessary tasks. Yung pagsulat, for example, bakit palagi nagsusulat yung bata? Na-bring up po kanina sa ating chat box na it actually develops multiple skills already. And it actually helps in retention. Na-discuss din po yun kanina. So these things have to be communicated properly lang po to ensure na masabi natin ang tama kung bakit ginagawa si DLP. Next po. So how do we implement DLP in schools? So there are multiple modalities that we can actually undertake. The first is the conduct of makeup classes. So ito po yung isang mode natin na, for example, kung meron ng capacity si school na magkaroon ng classes, may nagkaroon naman tayo ng learning loss over the past few days na nawalan ng pasok, or for example, during the bagyo or upcoming na bagyo, magkakaroon ng learning loss yung mga bata dahil doon. So pag pwede nang mag-klase ulit, pwede tayong mag-set up ng makeup classes, pwedeng sa classroom, pwedeng sa temporary learning spaces. So, kailan gagawin itong mga makeup na to? Pwedeng gawin to on the weekends or after school. Tapos, yung LAS, yung magiging diagnostic natin for concepts na hindi naintindihan. So, hanapin po natin yung ALS na tugma dun sa lesson na dapat natutunan nila nung time na walang pasok. Tapos, babasahin pa, sasagutan natin sa kanila yon. Doon malalaman natin yung mga konsepto na hindi nila naintindihan. And then, doon tayo magko-concentrate. Katulad ng pinag-usapan natin kanina sa earlier presentation, mami-minimize yung instruction time natin. Meaning, makikita na natin best sa mga LAS ng mga bata kung ano yung mga parte ng konseptong to ang hindi nila naintindihan at yun yung pwede natin i-expound further. So, mami-minimize yung instruction time natin. So, mama-maximize yung time spent natin din sa classroom. So that is one possible modality of implementation for makeup classes. Next. Yung pangalawang possible modality is as an alternative delivery mode. Specifically sa mga paaralan sa schools na they cannot conduct in-school classes or in case of ensuing in-person class suspensions. So kung may further class suspensions po tayo or sa mga classrooms who, for example, natin sa schools na wiped out po ang ating mga classrooms or may disrepair na classrooms, kailangan munang temporary learning spaces. Ang pwede natin gawin ay we can do one of three things. Una, we can conduct a fully remote online learning experience. So for those schools, for example, or those SDOs na yung mga bata ay may internet, for example, may mga bata na may internet, pwede pong gamitin natin ay through online mode. Yung pinag-usapan po kanina, isa-send yung LAS through Messenger, through Yahoo Groups, Gmail, for example, or any LMS na available sa SDO because there are some SDOs na may existing LMS na possible use. And then, ang gagawin ng bata, kukunin nila yung LAS, isusulat nila as necessary, at sasagutin nila, pipicturean nila, ipapadala uli kay teacher. In that way, fully remote and online learning po yun. So, pag nakuha ni teacher yung LAS, checkan niyo yung mga LAS ng mga bata, ulit, kunin yung mga core concepts na hindi naintindihan, and then you can conduct online classes. So, minimize na naman yung ating contact time kasi we're concentrating on the concepts na hindi naintindihan ng mga bata. Another possible mode is the drop-off pick-up mode. Napag-usapan din po ito earlier na yung ginawa, for example, ni CVIF during the pandemic na pwedeng i-drop off yung yung LASs for the week, kukunin sa school ng parents or ng barangay, ibibigay sa mga bata, sasagutan nila over the span of 1 week, tapos ibalik doon sa pick-up area. So through barangay as well or through the school, kung sa school i-drop off yung LAS. Tapos the teachers can check the LASs, provide comments, provide necessary corrections, and return them to the students. So pwede pong ganun, yung drop-off pick-up mode. And then that can also tie into the third one, which is your in-school off-site mode. So pwede po kasing meron tayong temporary learning spaces or classrooms na pwede namang gamitin, pero kulang sa mga bata dahil ng washout or unsafe yung paggamit ng classrooms po. So in these cases, pwedeng once a week lang magkita yung klase since na-minimize na po ang ating instruction time kasi ang i-discuss lang natin ay yung mga parte ng concept na hindi naintindihan ng mga bata sa LAS. Baka once a week lang nila kailangan pumasok tapos 1 day lang yung instruction day nila. For the other days, nasa bahay sila nagsasagot ng mga LAS. So that is one possibility. That is your in-school off-site mode. So ulit, this will ensure that you can use temporary learning spaces or learning spaces not in disrepair. Mama-maximize sila kasi yung mga estudyante hindi papasok araw-araw. So once a week lang or twice a week, depending po on the discretion of the school, the SDO, or the region po. Next po. So those are the possible methodologies po as to how you can possibly implement DLP in your school, in your SDO, in your region. The point is po dito ay kayo naman po ang may alam kung how best to use the LAS, how best to implement the DLP for your situation. It will depend on the very specifics of kung anong nangyari sa inyo, ano ba yung kailangan ng students ninyo. So kayo po magde-determine po nung itong mga details na to. It's more of kinapacitate kayo ngayon how to use the methodology and then you can determine na lang po which methodology you will use. So please, you can contact your principals, your school heads, or discuss among it in your school, discuss among it in your SDO with regards to how you want to implement this po. So for the next steps, una, how will you get LAS? Balik po tayo, sorry. So for the existing LAS, for Key Stage 1 to 4, meron po si STO Sarangani as we mentioned. So thank you very much STO Sarangani for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. We will be sending the link or providing the link to get the materials after the session. And then for the LAS for Key Stage 3 and 4, meron din po. So pwede kayong mamili whether gamitin yung Sarangani or yung sa CVIF. Be in OneDrive, it will be shared with you at the end of the activity. That's how you will get the LAS. You can read through the LASs kung anong topic ang kailangan ninyong i-discuss for the day dapat, hanapin nyo na lang dun sa LAS database natin and then yun po yung gamitin natin. Second, how do you cascade the learning activity sheets? The LAS is to be cascaded by regions based on the preferred mode of cascading. In a similar manner, kayo po sa school, kung paano nyo po ibibigay yung mga LASs nyo sa mga bata will depend on what mode you want to implement. I was told, for example, that there are certain regions na meron namang capacity for na provide, for example, sila ng partners nila ng tablets at ng internet access. So for those schools, sana all, pwede nilang gamitin yung fully online mode na ipapadala through online, sagutan ng bata, picture ng bata, send back to teacher, and then mag-online class sila after. It is a possible modality. For others naman na walang ganong capability, similar to what CVIF did, pwede yung drop-off pick-up mode. Or pwede rin yung in-school off-site. So, however you want to implement it, it depends on your specific nuance po. For implementing DLP, again, is determine the mode of implementation, whether through drop-off pickup, online, or determine it based on your situation. Talk to your school head po, or discuss it amongst yourselves, or if there is sort of guidance from the SDO or the region on the matter, that will depend on that situation. And then lastly, monitoring and evaluation. As I mentioned, kayo po yung unang-unang makaka-implement po nito. And we are actually integrating this into a larger ADM policy. So we will be reaching out to your regions, we will be reaching out to your SDOs, and maybe to you guys as well, with regards to how it was implemented, ano yung mga challenges ninyo, your practices, your experiences, para makita po natin ano pa yung pwede nating i-improve. So, for example, later on, we might talk about the process for creating LASs, or maybe a standardized LAS that we can share nationwide. That's something we can talk about later on as part of the implementation of this as an ADM mode in the mainstream. But that would be sort of after you implement this initially. So yun po. So I'm shocked actually na walang nagtanong nito. But kumbaga saan nyo kukunin yung pera pang print ng mga LAS ninyo? Theoretically, yung regions natin, kung meron silang unutilized na flexible learning options funding, pwede po nilang gamitin yon, or pwede rin po silang mag-request ng bagong funding mula sa CO. So, yung budget requirements per regions, tinatanong na po namin. Right now, the RDs, the ROs are already collating kung sino ba ang mga SDOs na kailangan ng additional funding for printing of LAS. Ipro-provide po yun sa central office. Consolidate po namin. Tapos, mag-release po ng policy on the use of existing FLO funds for printing of LAS para po yung regions na may unutilized na FLO funds, nagagamit po nila yung pondong yon. Kung wala na pong funds, dito tayo sa baba, additional budget requirements. Yung wala ng FLO funds, pwede silang mag-request ng additional funds sa central office. May proseso na po para doon. And then after noon, ito transfer yung necessary funds sa regions and SDOs as necessary para yun po yung gagamitin pong print ng ating mga LAS po. Yun. Ang maganda po dito sa LAS as noted earlier is kumbaga pwede mo siyang gamitin ulit. Kung ma-collect mo siya ulit, pwede siyang gamitin for successive batches, pwede siyang gamitin multiple times. Kasi ang bata, hindi nila sinasagutan yung papel mismo, pero kailangan separate yung papel nila, isusulat nila. So yun po. Yun po. With that, pwede po bang mag-open tayo sa makatanungan? Baka may mga tanong pa po kayo tungkol sa, I'm sure marami kayong tanong kung paano ninyo i-implement yung DLP po sa inyong mga schools at mga divisions po. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Directors. Ito po, meron tayong isang question. I think we don't have LAS for TLE EIM, sir. From Claudette G. We don't have LAS for TLE EIM. Tama po ba?
Which subject po? Ang
TLE-EIM.
EIM. From what we know, I'm not sure kasi po if you've seen the list na po of the LASs available. We actually have LASs available for a majority of the strands for TLE from the CVIF as well. So if Ma'am Pearl would like to discuss this further, but with the CVIF, for example, they have most of the strands already for senior high school for TVL, and even for the grade 7 to 10 na TVL, kompleto rin po yung kanilang LASs for that po. So I think it's more of a discussion of here. It's more of a discussion of how you will, for example, implement kumbaga yung skills based discussed earlier, but if any one of you would like to discuss how the LAS actually integrates skills based learning, I think that would be a good discussion to have with anyone from
Donna,
our
Sir
panel.
Desi, Ma'am Julie, skills-based na lessons.
Okay, sige po. For example, in junior high school po, for example, sa TLE grade 7 or grade 8 po, meron ho silang cookery as part of their exploratory TLE. We usually begin with theory po muna. So meron pong start po ng quarter na nagsusulat din ho sila ng LAS about basic cooking methods and all these other topics before po sila mag-proceed sa lab activity po nila. Let's say, for example, the goal is for them to be able to try different cooking methods, for example. So meron pa rin pong LAS, pero dahil po skills-based po itong subject na to, mas marami po silang time doing their laboratory work in the HE lab, for example. Similar din po sa coding, let's say sa programming, meron din pong mga LAS muna, and then once they're ready, then they can also try doing it in the computer laboratory po. For example, kung meron pong access sa ganung software po, for example.
Thank you, Sir Desi. Ma'am Julie, Ma'am Donna, may add po ba kayo? TLE-EIM.
Yeah. Meron naman po naka-upload doon sa website. Meron namang mga LES na sa mga TLE from grades 7 to 10. Pero wala kasi kaming TVL track for senior high school. We don't offer that. So for the junior high school only, we do have LAS from grade 7 to 10. They can access that actually.
Okay. Thanks, Ma'am Julie. Ma'am Donna?
Sir Mike, sa Division of Sarangani, ang TLE kasi namin, nauna silang gumawa before ang last. Ang tawag namin dito is Fact Sheet Plus. Kamukha din siya ng learning activity sheets, pero mas detailed siya kasi nga yung education program supervisor namin in TLE, parang ito yung nakikita niya, itong Fact Sheet Plus, ito na lang din ang tinuloy niya kasi ito nang naumpisahan niya. So kung okay lang din sa inyo na isi-share namin, dumaan din yun sa process, TLE Junior at saka TLE Senior High School. May iba't ibang specialization din yun na nagawaan namin.
Okay,
pero
thank
ang
you po.
learning activity sheets po, Sir Mike, sa elementary na EPP at saka grade 6 na TLE, kompleto po ang Division of Sarangani. Ang Fact Sheet Plus po ay sa grade 7 to senior high school in the different specialization ng TLE.
Okay, thank you. Director Michael, ano pong insights niyo doon?
Yeah, essentially, kumbaga up to junior high school, meron naman tayo as per the CVIF, diba? For the TLE. And then, tama po, I guess, i-share na lang din po natin, Ma'am Donna, if okay?
Sige po, sir. Ipapadala ko po.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, salamat po. I'd like to invite M. Jane from PLDT and SMART, the one handling their education programs. May tanong kasi dito, one of the challenges we see when done online is the possibility of learners using AI or advanced tech. Can those who implement share how they were able to instead use this on the advantage for students learning? M. Jane.
Hi, good afternoon po again.
I have a good news for everyone kasi naakma yung napapanahon yung tanong na topic about artificial intelligence or AI. Kasabay nung mga programs na ginagawa namin with DepEd for the dynamic learning program na roll out po, lalo na po ngayon dun sa mga Kristine-stricken areas, we will be soon rolling out an AI 101 caravan para po dun sa mga schools natin sa DepEd kung saan we can know kung paano natin pwede ma-maximize yung use ng mga productivity tools para sa mga estudyante and even para dun sa ating mga learners. So this time, we'd be guided and even po yung paano and the ethics and the responsibility on how to use and maximize this technology, mas maintindihan at ma-appreciate natin. Sir, Director Mick, baka you want to add pa more on this?
No, essentially, with regards to the AI issue, we're just gonna go back again to the fact that, kumbaga, the fact that they have to write it down, kahit na kinuha mo yun from a reference or something, technically, you wrote it down and you still learn something from it. So, again, while that references is frowned upon in essence here, the mere fact that you are writing it down, you're getting this information, is still learning. Kumbaga. And then if you can answer that, the assessments will come later on po. And so, pag in-assess mo na kulang pa rin sa summative assessments mo, dun tayo titingin kung kailangan ng remediation or ganun. Pero may learning na nangyari.
Thank you, Director. Desi?
Yeah, I share the same sentiments with Director Mick na the mere fact that they're writing and because sila po yung sinasabit po nila to sa akin, even sa math, wherein they will not just give the answer but provide us with a complete and step-by-step solution, we're able to see pa rin the process of their thinking po. Actually, it becomes helpful sa kanila. And in scenarios wherein they will do it in school, dahil wala pong homework, mas na may make sure po ng teacher na gawa po ng bata yung kailangan nilang gawin.
Okay, thank you. Meron pong question dito from Luz Taberna R. Are there LAS for STE research classes? Good afternoon po, sabi niya. Pag-research, meron po ba?
Meron tayo sa science, Sir Dave. Sa senior
ayun.
high school yan, meron po.
Ayun. Okay, so yun po, ma'am. I hope nasagot yung tanong ninyo. May comment also here from Prudence TVYES. I agree po. EIM also for junior. Cookery, dressmaking lang po meron. So, they're hoping na magkaroon po ng LAS for that. And then another comment, we need to start implementing this type of ADM now because there's always suspension of classes dahil po sa mga typhoons. Director or MJ, will there be a memorandum to be issued by our national office requiring us to do makeup classes so we have reference?
I'll let the Director Mick answer that question.
Okay.
Thank you.
So far, wala pa pong issuance to that effect. We will, as to the issuance, wala pang issuance to that effect, so we will leave that to the discretion then of the SDOs and the regions.
Ayun, okay. Pero maganda, no? Na sige na, kahit walang memo, mag-makeup classes tayo. I mean, of course, with all the technicalities being fulfilled. Okay. Baka ho mayroon pang gustong idagdag before we conclude our session for this afternoon. Donna, Director, Ma'am Julie, Sir Desi, and MJ. Again, para po sa mga mayroong clarifications, questions, comments or suggestions, please mag-comment po kayo dito sa ating YouTube and Facebook accounts ng DepEd at ng PLDT and Smart, and also dito po sa ating Zoom. Once again, this is a learning activity sheet, plug and play, ready na po. Game na game para po maihabol na natin sa mga estudyante natin maging maayos ang kanilang quality learning. May comment po from comment or question from Pressy Good evening po from Kalinga Division. Car, we just want to know if complete yung LAS po for the second quarter. Second quarter. Yes, Ma'am Donna.
Yung sa Sarangani, complete po, sir.
Ayun. Okay. So, thank you. Meron pong contact details na iniwan si MJ na no, the one handling the education programs of PLDT and SMART. You can check dito po sa ating Zoom ang kanyang details. Sabi ng isang kasama natin, thanks so much for sharing. Very inspiring from Butigi National High School, SDO, Mountain Province. Pwede po ba naming ma-access yung mga Sarangani files po? Yes. Tama, Ma'am Donna? Yes na yes. Pwede po.
Sir Mick,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes po.
ano mo niyo, Sir Mick? Bali
Ay-
na-send sa inyo ng LRMDS namin.
Oh,
Yes
yan.
po,
So,
na-consolidate na po natin yung mga LAS po from
ayun.
Sarangani. So yung from Sarangani po and from CVIF ay nasa isang folder na po. We'll be sending the link to those LASs for everyone's consumption po. And just to note lang na you need to contact us din po sa central office. Nasa memo naman po yung aming contact details din po.
Yun. Maigi. Naalala ko po sinasabi dati ni Sir Chris and Ma'am Marivic sa mga past training. Kapag may mga ganitong implementation, kung geared kayo towards education or further learning, baka pwede pong kasama ito sa thesis or sa masteral, I don't know. Siguro mas makakaalam kayo dahil kayo yung Masters of Education. Pwede nyo po itong gamitin. And then, I don't know, you do surveys, etc. para two birds with one stone. Okay. MJ, I think we can, okay na, no? Kung meron pang, yan, sige. Maybe I can request a final message from Director Michael, final encouragement. Very brief, sir.
Yeah. So again, we're just hoping, for example, that this actually helps everyone. So kumbaga, it's a quick way in order for us to do learning recovery. It's a quick way for us to respond to emergency situations. As mentioned earlier during the discussions, very sort of hindi siya resource intensive. So we can save on resources by implementing this program instead of, I'm pretty sure kasi binaba yung funding sa inyo for the FLOs, for example, pag print ng SLMs, tapos dumating yung bagyo, and we heard feedback na maraming mga SDOs and regions ang na-wipe out din ng ating mga SLMs dahil sa bagyo. So in this way, we are providing another resource for you to possibly get learning resources from. We want to make sure that this can be implemented properly. So 1 page lang per day per lesson. Have your students write it up. Very cost effective siya. It's about how you communicate as well. So hopefully makatulong talaga ito sa ating field, sa ating teachers para ma-ensure pa rin natin yung learning recovery natin at yung learning nating students moving forward.
Okay, thank you so much, Director. We hope that today's event helps you as also adopt DLP in your schools, especially when you maximize the use of learning activity sheets. As we face new challenges, we invite everyone to be our ally, to share in our journey to transform the lives of Filipinos through education. It's very powerful. The CVIF-DLP is a crisis resilient strategy that helps advance inclusive and equitable quality education amid classroom and teacher shortages and other crippling crises in the country. We encourage our fellow teachers in schools to attend our workshops, which we regularly conduct. As a longtime partner of DLP, we have PLDT and SMART, who help us organize this capacity building trainings. You may reach us via our Facebook pages and contact details being flashed on screen. Yan, screenshot nyo na po yan. As for the readily available learning activity sheets, yung mga LAS na pwede po ninyong gamitin, please watch out as DepEd Central Office shares the materials of CVIF and DepEd Sarangani, which they have curated for all grade levels for all subjects. Meanwhile, for our attendees who are also interested to roll out DLP in HALS, please directly coordinate with DepEd Central Office via the Office of Director Mike Cabatuan. Kabawatan. As our program comes to a close, we would like to again thank everyone who attended today's session. Let's make a difference. Thank you for being a part of this journey to ensure no learner is left behind. This has been your host, David. Take care and stay safe. Learn smart. Ito po ang ating QR code. Pwede nyo i-screenshot at i-access po yung ating mga materials.
Tatalakayin natin sa videong ito ang mga paraan ng
Para po
paggamit
sa
ng
mga
CVIF
kasamahan.
Dynamic Learning
Kasamahan
Program
ko sa
o
edukasyon.
DLP sa tatlong konteksto. Una, kung ang mga guro at mag-aaral ay may device at internet. Ikalawa, kung mayroon silang device ngunit limited lang ang internet. At ikatlo ay kung walang access sa device at internet. Kung may device at internet connection ang guro at ang estudyante. Step 1. Ipapadala ni teacher ang learning activity sheet kada linggo sa mag-aaral gamit ang email o Facebook Messenger o iba pang online platform gaya ng Google Classroom o Microsoft Teams. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sheet sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Kukunan ng litrato ng mag-aaral ang natapos na learning activity sheet at ipapadala ito pabalik kay teacher gamit ang email o Facebook Messenger o iba pang online platform gaya ng Google Classroom o Microsoft Teams. Ang hard copies ng learning activity sheets na natapos ay dapat i-compile ng mag-aaral sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Kapag natanggap na ni teacher ang natapos na learning activity sheet, maaari na siyang mag-online discussion sa mga mag-aaral gamit ang Facebook o Zoom o iba pang online platforms upang i-process ang lesson na natutunan ng mga mag-aaral ng mag-isa. Kung may device pero limited ang internet connection ng mga guro at ng mga estudyante, ang ibig sabihin ng limited internet connection ay gumagamit ng mobile data kaya't di maaari ang full online classes. Step 1. Itatype ng teacher ang learning activity para sa Facebook Messenger at ipapadala ito sa mag-aaral. Sa paraang ito ay hindi mababawasan ang load ng teacher at mag-aaral. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Itatype ng mag-aaral ang mga sagot sa exercises sa Facebook Messenger at ipapadala kay teacher. Ang hard copies ng learning activity sheets na natapos ay dapat i-compile ng mag-aaral sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Kapag natanggap na ni teacher ang sagot sa mga exercises para sa nakatakdang learning activity, maaari siyang mag-discuss sa mag-aaral gamit pa rin ang Facebook Messenger. Kung walang device at internet connection, Step 1. Ipiprint ng teacher ang mga learning activity sheets para sa isang linggo at ipapadala ang hard copy sa mag-aaral. Ito ay maaaring kunin ng mga magulang sa paaralan o di kaya sa tulong ng barangay ay ide-deliver ito sa kanilang bahay. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Iko-compile ng mag-aaral ang mga natapos na learning activity sheets sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Sa tulong ng mga magulang o ng barangay, ibabalik sa teacher kada linggo ang mga natapos na learning activity sheets ng mag-aaral at papalitan ito ng mga bagong learning activity sheets para sa susunod na linggo. Kahit walang teacher intervention, may matututunan ang mag-aaral basta't ginagawa niya ang mga learning activities na nakatakda. Ang CVIF Dynamic Learning Program o DLP ay maaaring gamiting pamamaraan ng pagtuturo kung may device at internet, kung may device pero limited ang internet, at kahit walang device o internet. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon sa CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, bisitahin lamang ang dlp.ph na website o hanapin lang ang Dynamic Learning Program sa Facebook o magpadala ng email sa learnsmart@smart.com.ph.
This